meet today's opening day lineup for your 2010 New York Mets. Leading off, the shortstop, number 13, Alex Cora. Batting second, the second baseman, number 1, Luis Castillo. Batting third and playing third base, number 5, David Wright. Hitting cleanup, we welcome him back to the Mets, the first baseman, number 35, Mike Jacobs. Playing left field and batting fifth, also returning to the New York Mets organization, welcome back, number 44, Jason Bay. Batting sixth, the center fielder, who also was a one-time Met and returns today, number 19, Gary Matthews Jr. Batting seventh and playing right field, number 12, Jeff Francoeur. Batting eighth and getting ready in the Mets bullpen, the catcher, number 21, Rod Barajas. And warming up in the Mets bullpen, the starting pitcher, number 57, Johan Santana. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2010 New York Mets.
A new Mets team met by a decidedly wary reception from a crowd ready to be convinced that 2010 will not be a carbon copy of 2009. The season begins. National anthem and first pitch coming right up. Pre-game ceremonies continue here on opening day at Citi Field. Let's rejoin Mets radio announcer Howie Rose.
And remove your caps for a moment of silence, followed by the national anthem and a flyover by 4 T-38 Talons from the 435th Fighter Training Squadron from Fort Randolph Air Force Base in Texas. At this time, we ask that you please join the Mets in a moment of silence in memory of longtime Mets organist Jane Jarvis, Patricia Shea Ryan, the daughter of Bill Shea, and other beloved members of the baseball family who have passed on since opening day of 2009.
Hold up. Go, Greg Watt.
Thank you. Here to honor America with the singing of our national anthem, please welcome 4 United States combat veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Sony Masterworks recording artists, 4 troops. Four troops, ladies and gentlemen, and our thanks to the pilots of the 435th Fighter Training Squadron.
Let's go. Baseball, baseball. Come on, come on.
We direct your attention to the pitcher's mound for our 2010 opening day ceremonial first pitch. The National League Rookie of the Year in 1983. He's the Mets' all-time leader in home runs and runs batted in. And he will be inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame and Museum in a special pregame ceremony on August 1st. Please welcome 1986 world champion, outfielder and slugger number 18, Darryl Strawberry. And his ceremonial catcher, 1986 teammate, Howard Johnson. Nicely done, Darryl. Ladies and gentlemen, Darryl Strawberry.
And welcome into the broadcast booth alongside Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling. I'm Gary Cohen. Very excited to bring you our 5th season of Mets baseball on SNY. And, you know, opening day is a special day on any field, but when that flag covers the outfield and both teams are lined up on the foul lines and you've got 4 troops singing the national anthem, there's just something very special about this day, no matter what year it is.
Well, opening day is always a great day for the players, for the fans. I think it's pretty important to note that this is the 65th anniversary of the Battle of Okinawa in World War II, and it's ironic that former Met manager Gil Hodges fought in that battle, and how ironic and how nice that we have the troops here with the flag and really thinking of Gil opening this season.
Well, it's a goosebump moment. I mean, when I watch that flag unfurl, to me, honestly, because I wish I wasn't so old and decrepit, that I'd like to get out there and compete. But it's fun to watch opening day, of course.
Now, the Mets have gone through a very tumultuous offseason following a very difficult 2009, and there are a lot of question marks surrounding this team. They've got Jose Reyes and Carlos Beltran and Daniel Murphy on the disabled list as we begin the season. But at the same time, you look up and down the Mets offense, and there are some reasons for optimism.
Well, this team's going to hit, and when they get Beltran and Reyes back, they will hit. I think the main thing is Bay was the big acquisition, and you always worry about the spotlight. Well, Jason Bay took over for Manny Ramirez in Boston, a tough place to play. And what did he do in 200 games? He had 45 home runs and drove in 156 runs. So that's not a problem. I love the way Wright swung the bat this spring. He looked terrific. They're going to have to need those 2 bats. They're going to need it from them until they get Beltran and Reyes back.
And so Bay and Wright will try and carry the offense through the early season until they get the big guns back to join them. As far as the pitching is concerned, that's where the season might hold its key, because you've got Johan Santana at the front. He'll pitch today, but what comes next is the issue.
It really is the issue. When you think about it, it's really the next 3 guys with Pelfrey, Maine, and Perez behind Santana are really going to have to make the big difference. They're going to have 90 starts between those 3 guys. We know what Santana's going to do. It's great to to have him pitching here on opening day.
And the Marlins are the opposition. They have been a huge thorn in the side of the Mets over the last few seasons. They won 87 games last year, and they bring to the table one of the best players and one of the best pitchers in the National League. And of course, we're talking about, first of all, Hanley Ramirez.
Well, when I saw Hanley Ramirez in spring training, I said, welcome to the club. He's the batting champion last year of the National League. He hit over 340, just a terrific player. He improved on his defense, too, and his overall attitude. He's really grown as a player, and he is one of the top 5 players in Major League Baseball.
And the Mets were able to beat Josh Johnson in spring training this year. They'll try and do it for the first time in the regular season.
Yeah, he's undefeated against the Mets in his career. 15-5 last season, and one of the bright young pitchers, a pitcher that you build your pitching staff around.
So it is Johan Santana for the Mets and Josh Johnson for the Florida Marlins. Two of the best in the business going head-to-head this afternoon.
Opening day to me is new expectations. Everybody's got a shot. Everybody thinks they can win the pennant, and just really a fun day for the fans, a chance to come out and show what you got.
It's been a while since I felt this nervous, you know, for an opening day. Usually it's just go out there, tip your hat, and watch the game. But this time, you know, I gotta do something, you know, for this team and help this team to get a W.
I think this day is like first game of the World Series. You know, everybody try to have a good game and you know, be excited.
Opening day to me is exciting because I'm going to be in New York in my home city, and my family and friends are going to be able to be here and watch me play.
It's a day of excitement for everybody. Everybody starts fresh. 162 games to go, and no matter what the expectations, it's a day for everybody to be optimistic. On a bright sunny day in New York, here's your starting lineup for the Florida Marlins. They've got the National League Rookie of the Year at the top of the lineup in Chris Coghlan, the National League batting champion hitting third and playing shortstop. A couple of tremendous power hitters in Ugla and Ross, and the rookie Gabby Sanchez, along with their ace pitcher Josh Johnson. And they go up against Johan Santana, who makes his 5th opening day start.
Well, you see his numbers from last season in his opening day starts. He's 3-1, 2-0 with the Mets. The last time he beat the Marlins was in 2008 at Shea Stadium when he pitched that beautiful 3-hit shutout on that last Saturday.
And the Lexus Metsy defense, a little surprise there. Gary Matthews in center field. You see Jason Bay over there, 15 outfield assists. That led the American League. He's a slugger, so that's what the Mets need from him. So they felt in this ballpark that they can bring Jason Bay over, and they've got Gary Matthews in center field. I thought Pregame was going to start Gary, but a surprise start with Gary Matthews.
Well, Jerry Manuel said he wanted Alex Corey in the leadoff spot. He felt more comfortable with Matthews sitting down in the order, and the expectation is that both Matthews and Pagan will play over the 6 weeks, at least until Carlos Beltran is ready to come back. But the Mets are hoping to get off to a fast start. Opening days belong to the Mets over the last 4 decades. They've won 31 of their last 40 opening day games, a phenomenal winning percentage of over 750, and we'll see if they can keep that going today.
And how many years did it take them, Gary, to win their first opening day?
They lost their first 8. They won a World Series before they won an opening day game.
It always helps when you have guys like Santana, Seaver, and Gooden who start those first games.
That helps.
3rd straight opening day start for Santana as a Met. Chris Coghlan will lead off, and the 49th season of New York Mets baseball is set to get underway. And Santana starts off with a strike.
Beautiful fastball.
Johan 13-9 last year, an injury-shortened season, had arthroscopic surgery on the 1st of September to remove bone chips. Second time in his career he's had to undergo that kind of surgery.
This is the only left-hander in the Marlin lineup today. The Rookie of the Year last year, Chris Coghlan.
Coghlan didn't come up till early May last year. Started hitting and never stopped. Wound up hitting .321 for the year. And edged out a pretty strong field for National League rookie honors. And the slider misses 2-1.
Mets would love Santana to get off to the same start he did last season. His first 7 starts, his ERA was 0.78.
I can't remember a more beautiful day for opening day. I mean, it's always freezing.
And the fastball sits high, and he falls behind Coghlan, 3-1.
That's the old Met uniform right there, isn't it, Gary? The old 60 Mets with the pinstripes.
Well, they went with the sort of off-white with the pinstripes, more reminiscent of the 1960s. And Coughlin pops it up, playable for Wright with the glasses down. And David puts it away for the first out of the season. Sun is certainly going to be an issue today. Not much wind, though.
Yeah,
but this is more like playing in spring training, isn't it?
It's interesting. The flag on the right field line was blowing in from a while ago. Now it's blowing out. It's a little bit tricky here what's going on with the wind today.
Wind out of the south today. So it is certainly not a typical April day by any means, and it's only supposed to get warmer the next 2 or 3 days.
Beautiful. I love it.
It's one of the changes in the field, Keith. They only have it blowing out when the Mets are at bat. It took a lot of extra work this winter.
Well, here is Cameron Maybin, who is trying again to secure the everyday center field job for the Marlins. He had it last year at the beginning of the season, didn't hit, and got sent down.
He was a part of that big trade with the Tigers, and he was one of the big guys. Lots of talent. Hasn't hit yet.
Just turned 23 yesterday, and the good changeup by Santana, 1-1.
His problem has always been is that he strikes out about a third of his at-bats. He's got a bit of a long swing, but most people are going to miss this excellent changeup here from Santana.
Yeah, they worked on this spring shortening his stroke up.
And Maybin can't catch the fastball. So Santana showed him the changeup and then threw one by him.
With the change of speeds, trying to hit against Johan Santana is like trying to hit on top of a seesaw. You're going back and forth with speeds.
One-two to Maybin. He struck him out. First strikeout of the season for Santana. 2 out and nobody on.
Well, just alternating fastball, changeup, and the put-away pitch, of course. It's the ability to throw that ball out of the strike zone. Look at the grip of that changeup, coming off all of those 4 fingers and turning over with that left hand to make the ball go down in the strike zone.
So Santana gets exactly where he wants to be against Hanley Ramirez, facing him with 2 out and nobody on. Last year's National League batting champion. Still just 26 years old, a lifetime .316 hitter.
Notice the Gary, the sink on Santana's changeup, and that last pitch on the strikeout to Maybin, threw it knee high and it sunk out of the strike zone. That is a perfect bait pitch.
And Santana last year with those bone chips in his elbow, unable to get his arm fully up, unable to get full extension, and that changeup was not as sharp.
Really the big difference with any pitcher. Finishing your pitches will give you late life, and that's what Santana lacked at the end of last year.
Behind 2-0, and he comes with a fastball, and Ramirez lifts one out to right for Francoeur. And so Johan Santana starts the afternoon with a 1-2-3 inning. The Mets come to bat when we come back. Here's your Geico Mets starting lineup for opening day. Alex Cora rather than Jose Reyes at short. Gary Matthews Jr. rather than Carlos Beltran at center field. And Mike Jacobs rather than Daniel Murphy at first base. But you've got Wright and Bay and Francoeur to provide power from the right side. And Josh Johnson on the mound for Florida, dealing to Alex Cora, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1.
You want to say that Josh Johnson kills the Mets at 7-0, but he really kills the National League East, where he's 20-4. One of the bright young pitchers in baseball, all 6 foot 7 inches of him.
And it's only gotten better since Tommy John surgery, as Cora fouls one away. Since coming back from Tommy John surgery the middle of 2008, Josh Johnson is 22-6.
You know, I was talking to him about what was the thing of Tommy John surgery that made him come out and be such a dominant pitcher. He said it was the first time that he really channeled all his workouts and worked out every single day.
Oh, good fastball. You know, Ron, talking about Johnson and his 20-4. He's the third pitcher to win 21 of his first 25. Dave McNally back in the old Orioles.
Wow.
And Barry Zito.
You mean against his own division?
Right.
Yeah. That pitch hit Cora, who will get plunked by an occasional pitch. And so the Mets have a leadoff base runner.
Well, this is a slider right here, I believe. And I don't think there was much effort to get out of the way of that ball. Right?
Well, that is to become the norm now. These guys will not get out of the way. Good job by Alex of staying in there. And what does they say? Taking one for the team.
Yep.
So Cora's aboard, and now here's Luis Castillo. Castillo had a good offensive season as the #2 hitter last year, a .387 on base percentage, and he will often bunt in the first inning in situations like these, and maybe even more so with Santana against Johnson, figuring it could be a very low scoring game. But up there set to swing and takes ball 1.
Johnson does a nice job of fielding his position. You see the defense there, Keith.
In at the corners, of course. You got to protect. Let's see if Jerry starts out quick and aggressively with a hit and run here. I always felt that Castillo is a good hit and run guy. Hits the ball the other way. It was not utilized enough to hit and run. Make it happen.
Cora stole 8 bases last year.
Well, I'm with you, Keith, as David Wright's on deck. The same old hasn't worked against Johnson. Let's change it up a little bit.
And you haven't got a base stealing threat in Cora out there, you know, as opposed if you had a Jose Reyes.
Well, Cantu certainly playing it close at third as Gabby Sanchez holds Cora, who shortens up his lead. And a slow ground ball. Ugla to Ramirez, and they do not turn 2. Close play at first base, but Castillo beats it out.
Ugla here I didn't think charged quick enough. I'm being a little overly critical, but great hustle by Castillo here.
Also, Keith, Gabby Sanchez at one point could stretch a little more here at first base.
That's a play, Ronnie, where you can cheat. A terrible stretch. Very good, Ron. I should know that. How did you know that? You're a pitcher.
No, I always wanted to double play. That's why.
And a good call by Las Diaz as Castillo certainly appeared to beat it. So the Mets with 1 out and 1 on, and now David Wright, who looked like a changed hitter during spring training this year. We'll see whether he can carry it over to the regular season. One of his last spring training efforts was a double and a home run against Josh Johnson.
Well, remember the last spring start that Johnson had was against the Mets at Port St. Lucie with that wind blowing out to right field. He gave up 2 home runs to Bay and I believe Wright. I'm not sure. And they were both to right field, and just thinking that maybe Johnson might be pounding inside early since the Mets were setting up away on him in the last spring start.
Polino sets up away for this pitch. It was last Thursday. Johnson was coming back from the flu. He hadn't pitched in 10 days. That might have been a factor, but Wright certainly put a charge into one.
Yes, he did, and so did Bay. Identical pitches, fastballs away. So see if Johnson put that in the back of his head and filed it.
David hit 5 home runs during spring training. That's as many as he hit at Citi Field all last year. He drives this one to right field, over toward the corner. That ball is out of here. David Wright hits a 2-run homer in his first at bat of the season, and the Mets jump out to a 2-0 lead.
Set up away, and that ball's up. It was a little cutter. Fastball, Ronnie, look at fastball.
Yeah, fastball on the outside part.
Got it up, and he may have to change the program. And what a great start for David Wright. So critical.
Mike Jacobs in his return to the Mets takes a strike. Well, that's a part of the ballpark the Mets didn't utilize last year. You know, David's power is generally to straightaway right and right center, but he hit that one down the line, which is where you can pick up a less than solidly struck home run.
Well, Keith, I thought you made the great point, and the point is that someone went to school and someone did not. David Wright, remembering that Johnson pitched him away, stayed with the same game plan, and Josh Johnson did not.
IOTV pitch differential, you see they wanted that ball down, but it was way up compared to where he wanted it.
And too much plate.
So Johnson, who gave up just 14 home runs in 209 innings last year, yields one in his first inning this season. Jacobs, the former Marlin, takes low and in, 2-2. Mike was a 38th round draft pick by the Mets back in 1999. Made his big league debut with the Mets in 2005. Jason Bay, who also had a previous tour through the Mets farm system, waiting for his first Met at bat on deck. Two to Jacobs, and he waves at the fastball away. And Johnson has his first strikeout, 2 down. And now the Met debut of Jason Bay. You see his numbers last year in Boston, where he replaced a legend in Manny Ramirez.
He swings the bat. Let me tell you, he reminds me of when Ray Knight, when the Reds traded Pete Rose, and Ray Knight had to come up from AAA, a young man, not the age of Jason Bay, a rookie, and take Pete Rose's place, and he had a great year, hit 300, I believe, his first year. It's similar to what Bay had to go through in Boston, replacing Ramirez. So there's no question that Bay can play in the spotlight.
Are you surprised the way the Marlins are playing him in the outfield? As you look at some notes on Bay, who was in the Mets farm system briefly after Montreal and before San Diego.
Pitch him away, play him away, huh? And that just showed him a fastball in the pitch prior to keep him honest.
I mean, look at Maben. Look how far over in right center he is.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, here's center field right there. That's really shading him the other way.
And this is a guy who's noted as a pull hitter, but pitching him away. And he fouls it away. And remember that Bay hit a home run against Johnson in Florida, hit straightaway center field. Mets hit just 95 home runs last year, last in the majors. They've already got one on the board. And a base hit for Jason Bay in his first Met at bat.
Well, there's no doubt that this club is going to hit and score runs. And that's another ball up, Ronnie. That same pitch.
Josh Johnson, when he's at his best, you very rarely see a ball above the knees. Seen plenty of them here in the first inning.
Think he's a little pumped up?
Yeah, a little overthrowing for the young man.
Yep. Look at his swing, good balance. Good top hand. He's a real top hand hockey swinger right there.
Of course. British Columbian. Here's Gary Matthews Jr.
Home Depot defense for the Marlins. You saw that errors at the bottom there. This is not a great defensive ball club, although I do think they kind of improved with Sanchez at first and Coughlin in left field and Maben in center. It's still not a strong defensive ball club.
See Ronnie Polino behind the plate. He platoons with John Baker, getting the start with the lefty on the mound for the Mets. Gary Matthews, a switch hitter. Ooh. And he gets it on his hands. Polino coming back. Not much room back there, but enough for Polino to make the grab to end the inning. But the Mets get off to a fast start against a nemesis, Josh Johnson. David Wright looking for a bigger power year. Well, the signs are very strong early as David goes oppo, and the Mets take a 2-0 lead into the second. Here at Citi Field on opening day. And Johan Santana staked to a 2-0 lead on the strength of David Wright's second career opening day home run. Jorge Cantu, who's always been a huge thorn on the Mets side, leads off for the Marlins. 100 RBIs last year despite hitting only 16 home runs. You can relate to that, Keith.
Absolutely. I absolutely can. Absolutely. I'll say absolutely again. Why don't you bring that up?
You know that you don't have to hit a ton of home runs to drive in runs.
Absolutely. Well, and that is, you hit in the clutch, you hit in the clutch. I always used to look at the guys that drove in 90 runs, they hit 25, 30 home runs. They weren't very clutch. And what would I have done if I had hit 30 home runs? Well, I didn't.
Cantu foul tips one and two.
I think that's the Marlins, though. When you look at their team, they have guys that, you know, kind of no names in baseball, like Cantu, like Ross in right field. And then you look at their numbers at the end of last year, very substantial numbers.
Freddie Gonzalez now in his 4th year as Marlins skipper. They won 87 games last year. Their payroll this year is up from $36 million to $46 million, and for the first time in the last 3 years, they do not have the lowest payroll in baseball. They're spending more right now than San Diego or Pittsburgh, but there's a little pressure coming from ownership.
Yes. There always has been.
Popped up. And let's see if Barajas has room. One away. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the day is Pat Cawley of Glendale, New York. by AT&T, by Geico, by American Airlines. We know why you fly. We're American Airlines. And by McFadden's, coming to Citi Field this season. One of the consequences of the Marlins spending a few more dollars this offseason is the fact that they were able to retain Dan Uggla, who everybody thought was going to be traded away before his contract numbers got too big.
They retained Dan Uggla, and also they signed Josh Johnson to a 4-year contract. So they're starting to tie up some of the young talent past their free agent years.
Last year they tied up Hanley Ramirez. So that's the core of their team. Uggla didn't have had a down year last year. They had 31 home runs, but only 91 ribeye stakes.
Well, he accomplished something no second baseman ever has before, a third consecutive 30 home run season. First time in the history of the game that a second baseman has done that, as the changeup misses. But talking about ownership, I mean, Jeffrey Loria, the owner, and Larry Beinfest, the general manager, have made it clear they expect this team to win the World Series. And I don't know if that's an unrealistic expectation after 87 wins, but it certainly puts a lot of pressure on this team. David Wright gets in front of the ground ball, and the sidearm throw gets Uggla for the second out. David dropping down a little with that throw. There's some of the offseason changes for the Marlins. Their longtime right fielder Jeremy Hermida has moved on.
And that Nate Robertson, the left-handed pitcher they got late in spring training with Detroit Tigers. They have 4 right-handed starters. Robertson is going to fit beautifully in there in that rotation.
And Nate Robinson came up for his last start, in his first start for the Marlins in spring, and just threw 6 brilliant innings.
And he's going to face the Mets here Thursday night. They've moved him up to the 3 spot in the rotation. Here's Ronnie Polino, the catcher, and he foul tips 1-0 and 1.
You know, one thing we're not factoring in also is not only do they expect them to win, 2 seasons from now they're going to be in a new ballpark, so they're trying to, you know, establish themselves as one of the mainstays in the National League East.
1-1 to Polino.
That means the Mets have got to move out of that beautiful hotel.
You and I are going to be down in South Beach. No, you won't.
I think Charlie has South Beach in mind. I don't know if Fred Wilpon will like that, or Omar.
Depends which end of South Beach. Good changeup, although he got it up. He got Polino to swing through it, 1-2. Santana's retired the first 5. In the air to left center, over toward the gap. Racing over is Matthews, and he'll get there to make the grab. And in the inning, 6 up and 6 down for Johan Santana. The Mets lead 2-0. A sterling day in the Big Apple. Perfect day for taking off from school or from work and heading out to the ballpark in Queens. We used to say the big ballpark in Queens when we played at Shea, but this is a little more cozy.
As players, Keith and I used to call it the Big Shea, right? That's what we used to call it.
That's what Murph used to say.
Yeah.
You know who started saying that? That was Merle Harmon, who was the voice of the Jets in the 1960s.
Oh, really?
He started calling it the Big Shea.
I remember one day I got late to the ballpark and was driving by LaGuardia.
Shocking, by the way.
Jeff Francoeur takes a mighty hack. 1-1.
Well, I had to be retired because it would have been Murph's pregame show, and I was driving in and I heard Murph say, "Oh, what a marvelous day at Big Shea."
You see statistically how much better Francoeur was as a Met last year than he was as a Brave. And Johnson's having trouble locating his breaking stuff. That one well out of the strike zone.
Francoeur's had success against Johnson. 318 lifetime. Good fastball in. And that's surprising with the slider that he has and the way Francoeur fishes for bad pitches. You'd think he would really eat up a guy like Francoeur.
And Jeff lays off that one. It's 3-2. And we saw a little of this late in spring training. Francoeur trying to exercise a little more patience against that breaking ball.
But when you got 2 strikes on you, you got to go the other way. You got to fight.
Grounds one down to third for Cantu to handle. And that's the first out of the inning. So Francoeur retired. What a splendid afternoon.
We don't need a jacket. I got my sports jacket off. There's this umpire's gear.
Wally Bell, crew chief. I see 4 veteran umpires retired right before opening day.
I saw Eddie Montague, one of the good guys in the game, retired.
Charlie Relaford was in that crew as well. So the umpiring, which was very questionable around baseball last year, is getting a little bit younger.
A couple guys got let go.
There's Ron Barajas in his first Met at bat. Barajas will be the Mets' #1 catcher this year, 34 years old, with Toronto last year. And as you see there, he's got power, not a whole lot of batting average or on base percentage.
I think what you just saw on that first pitch, that big swing by Barajas, is what you're going to get. Only walked 20 times last season.
Well, you know who that profile's like. That's like Miguel Olivo, who used to be with the Marlins and is now in Colorado. Check swing, and he went around on the breaking ball, 1-2. Henry Blanco will be the backup catcher. So the Mets have a very veteran catching core with Barajas at 34 and Blanco at 38. But if they need help, they've got Josh Tolle and Omir Santos down in AAA. Ripped down the left field line, but it hooks foul.
How did he stay in the box? There was a piece of paper, a wrapper that just blew right in front of him, and to me that's a distraction. He's getting rid of it now, but when that pitch was thrown, it was right in front of home plate on the grass, and that's an automatic timeout. And let me get that paper and put it in my back pocket.
That didn't bother Bobby Thompson. You ever see the film of him hitting the home run off Ralph Branca? There are about 100 of those pieces of paper on the infield. That's when, you know, men were men.
Yes, that's when pitchers win 15 if they had to.
He would.
He would.
We certainly saw it 2 years ago in the last game of the season, what he will do if called upon. Second to last game, I should say. Barajas pops one up, and in shallow center, Maben is there to put it away for the second out.
Well, he got away with a hanger right there.
So Barajas is retired, and now Santana.
He can swing the bat. You got to be careful here. This is no easy out.
You know, both pitchers on both sides. Johnson, a very accomplished hitter too, can swing the bat.
There's Tom Seaver's best friend, Mr. Met.
Now, have you been in the new Hall of Fame and Museum?
No, I have not.
They have the original Mr. Met outfit there. It's a little scary.
Is it? Yeah. Well, you remember that, don't you?
Only vaguely.
Were you knee-high to a grasshopper then?
Very young. Santana grounds one down to first. Gabby Sanchez handles it, and so Johnson bounces back with a 1-2-3 inning. And if you come to Citi Field this year, you have got to stop by the new Mets Hall of Fame and Museum. It is just fantastic.
Cool.
At Citi Field on opening day, the Mets with a 2-0 lead on the strength of a David Wright first inning 2-run homer. Johan Santana has retired the first 6 Marlins to face him. Cody Ross will lead off the third. Ross was very much a question mark for opening day. He suffered a variety of injuries this spring, most recently to his calf, and when we saw the Marlins less than a week ago, they did not think that he was going to be ready today, and he's probably not 100%, but you know, Cody Ross is a tough little guy, and he wanted to be in there today. Guy has given the Mets fits, and he hits one toward the hole. Nice diving stop by Cora. Tries to right himself and throws right on target. It would have been a tough play anyway. It turned even tougher when he had trouble getting up.
Well, this ball was ripped. One hopper by Cora. Very nice play. There's Mr. Cora right there.
The chart's got him, Keith. Cora way in the hole.
Yes, he's a pull hitter. Ross is a guess at a nice play. Almost stumbled coming up, but 6-3 on your scorecard. And that's a typical reaction right there from the Met ace.
7 in a row now for Santana with some help from Alex Cora. And now the rookie first baseman Gabby Sanchez, and he takes a strike.
Sanchez won the job last year, and they had great expectations. Did not hit well last year. Got sent down, and he's getting a second chance.
16 home runs in AAA last year in only 85 games. Kevin Burkhardt is with us for the fourth straight year, and we've sent him all the way to the promenade level. Kevin?
I couldn't get a seat, guys, so this is the best I have for today. Yeah, what a day. I mean, just beautiful for opening day. And, you know, you talk a little bit about this team and what you saw in spring training, and the chemistry for this team. This is my 4th year, the best that this team chemistry has been. Just fantastic. A lot of the newcomers feeling right at home. You know, and some telling things, too. You know, the Team USA against Team Canada hockey game, they went out to the local sports bar and everybody was cheering and had different things on the line there. Alex Cora said a pretty revealing thing to me. He said, you know, last year with the World Baseball Classic, coming to a new team, my best teammate was Dustin Pedroia. Said it was just kind of, you never really got on the same page. He said this year we've had so many opportunities to bond, to get to know each other. And it kind of turned into Jeff Francoeur's clubhouse. He was the guy, you always heard him talking, but the bottom line is this team has a good feel. I asked Ceremonial about that, about the team chemistry, if he thinks it's really terrific. And he said it is, but you find out about team chemistry when you hit adversity. When you go to adversity, if the chemistry is good enough, it pulls you through. Of course, guys, it would be nice if there was no adversity for this team to face. And the other thing is, I think just first impressions, and that is Jason Bay. And I know you guys can comment on this, but Bay, just so impressive with his professionalism, his attitude. He's got that dry, sarcastic sense of humor. You get the feeling he'll do very well here in New York. Guys?
Actually, I think it's a perfect bookend for Jeff Francoeur. And that foul tip, not held.
Well, I think Kevin makes a good point, and from my experiences, this is a much better clubhouse, diverse clubhouse. It is just a nice blend, and I agree. Francoeur has kind of taken over that role there, and I like the idea that Bay was kind of gabbing a little bit with the Red Sox, and he told him, hey, cut the cord. You're on the Mets now. I thought that was terrific.
Hey, guys, we always talk about chemistry, and especially, you know, myself, because I'm in the clubhouse and I see a lot of it in action. How important is it? I mean, it seems like people have different views on it. I mean, this team, you talk to a man and there's no denying. They all say that this is a real good bond going on here. So how much does that factor in?
Well, you know, Kev, look at the swinging A's back. They hated each other. Reggie Jackson got in a fight with Bill North. Gene Tennis. They didn't like each other, and they won 3 championships. And it does help to have chemistry, though, Ron.
Listen, you like to have both, but if you have the option of chemistry and good players, I'll take good players any day. That's kind of how it goes. But, Kevin, the point you're making, I think, is that you're always going to go through an adverse time during the season. You're going to lose 2 or 3 straight. And it's when you're close that you can kind of pull each other up by the bootstraps and say, hey, I'm behind you. I'm on your side. We're going to get out of this thing. And those kind of clubhouses are winning clubhouses.
And I think we've seen that. And I think Kevin can attest to this, the kind of mutual support this spring. You know, even guys like Mike Jacobs and Frank Catalanato lockering next to each other, competing for a job. Now, as it turned out, they're both on the team right now, but they could not have had, you know, better times together, even though, you know, they knew that their circumstance was such that they could easily be enemies, but they weren't. And I think that kind of thing is nice to see.
There's Frank right there.
This will be the 10th pitch of the at-bat to Gabby Sanchez. And the changeup popped up foul. It'll have to throw one more.
A little battle here.
Pitcher Josh Johnson, who had 3 home runs last year, is on deck.
It is just such a treat to be here in your shirt sleeves in this beautiful weather, and I'm sure the fans here in New York. I was down in Florida all year, and it was cold down there, but I know you fans up here really suffered through a very bitter winter, and this is a beautiful spring day.
Not just snow and cold, but more recently rain. Too much. Beautiful. Up the middle, and Sanchez has a base hit. So that long battle won by the rookie, and Sanchez is the first base runner of the afternoon for the Marlins. Get your 2010 Mets tickets for opening week and other games throughout the season at Citi Field. Tickets start at $11. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com now for your tickets. The view from just inside the newly named Shea Bridge out in right center field. Ceremonies were held this morning honoring the Shea family and William Shea, who had his name on the ballpark for 45 years. Josh Johnson up there to bunt with 1 on and 1 out, and he takes a strike. And there is that Shea Bridge and the plaque commemorating the naming of that bridge.
Just a natural, isn't it, to have that bridge named after Mr. Shea. Now the bridge between the old ballpark that Keith and I played in, of course, in this beauty.
1-1 to Johnson. It was at 10:15 this morning. 23 members of the Shea family were on hand today for the official naming of the bridge.
Well, he was the. I'm sorry, Gar. He was the mover and shaker that brought baseball back to New York, and the National League Baseball, that is.
One of many things that the Mets have done since last season to enhance the metitude of the ballpark.
There you go.
I mean, there are banners hanging everywhere. There are some beautiful signs and pictures and mementos, and then you add in the Hall of Fame and Museum right off the rotunda, and it makes for a much more Met feeling experience at Citi Field this year. And all credit to Mets management, because there were a lot of complaints last year and they listened. Wright throws out Johnson. Sacrifice successful. 5-4, moving Sanchez to second with 2 outs. They moved the old apple from Shea Stadium, from a place where people really couldn't see it in the bullpen area, out front to the plaza. See many former and current players honored. The entrances named after Tom Seaver and Casey Stengel and Bill Hodges.
As it should be.
They lowered the fence just a little bit in center field. They changed the bullpen so that the relievers can see the field.
It's beautiful out there. I was out there before the game.
And see some of the murals of Mets past, and of course the banners on the outfield wall and the retired numbers. Runner at second with 2 down. Chris Coghlan, the batter. So congratulations all around to the Mets marketing folks and ownership for recognizing that there was an issue here, and not only taking care of it, but taking care of it in a really professional and classy way. I mean, you go around this ballpark, and especially in that new Hall of Fame and Museum, and you get just the right feel. You know, it's not the Mets trying to be another franchise. It's the Mets honoring being the franchise that they are.
You saw that outfield defense off Coghlan here, and look at left field, Jason Bay. Look how shallow he is in left, way over, and here's straight away. Obviously the center fielder Matthews shaded way over, very shallow in right field.
Coghlan fouled out to David Wright to open the ball game. 2-0 Mets. We're in the third. On 1-1, Coghlan fouls it away, and Santana ahead 1-2. Johan retired the first 7 before giving up a 1-out single here in the third to Sanchez in an 11-pitch marathon.
It's a nice little split screen there.
Did you see that little back and forth? Santana with the shaking of the head. In between that at bat, while Coughlin's getting ready, Barajas looking him in the eye, letting him know what he wanted.
One-two. Popped it up. Jacobs shading his eyes, and he's got it to end the inning. Santana survives his first hit of the afternoon. Mets lead at 2-0. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, America's #1 furniture retailer of the year. Top of the batting order for the Mets as we go to the bottom of the third. Alex Cora, Luis Castillo, and David Wright up against Josh Johnson. Last year, Johnson and Santana hooked up early in the season, and they had a classic down in Miami.
Johnson with a complete game effort win, 2-1 over Santana in a game that took 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Santana struck out 13 that day. That was the game in which Daniel Murphy famously dropped the fly ball in left field that helped decide it. Alex Cora hit by a pitch his first time up, and he takes a strike. 1-1.
There's Darryl.
He's got a vest like you working today.
Looks like Otis the Trunk Sistrunk.
You mean from the University of Mars? No. And Cora lines one down the line right into the glove of Chad the ball boy. Chad on the scene and always gets his face on TV.
Chad gets more airtime than anybody, but you got to make the play.
That's his kind of play. Didn't have to move.
Well, thank God. Yeah, exactly. Thank God he made that catch. He would have waffled a few people behind him.
Chad going with the somewhat shorter due this year. Two and two to Cora. Alex made 69 starts for the Mets last year. John Franco also in the building. Opening day brings out all the greats. Little tapper.
Oh,
Johnson makes the nice backhand play and throws out Cora one away. Jerry Manuel beginning his second full season as Mets manager. Of course, took over during the 2008 season. And there's a lot of pressure on Jerry right now for this team to get off to a fast start.
Well, I think more pressure put on because of the spotlight and the media here in New York. I think in any other city, particularly in the Midwest, it probably would have been cut a lot more slack with the injuries to this ball club that they had last year. But boy, they've been it's been blown hard up by the press that he's you know, has to get off to a good start. And I don't really necessarily believe that, Gary.
Luis Castillo grounded into a force play his first time up.
I think if anything, Gary, that if anybody's there's the mayor. He's got a lot of problems right now with the economy. I wish him good luck. Boy. Anyway, I think, Gary, that if anybody is on the hot seat, I think it's Omar. If anybody's going to be on the hot, more so than Jerry.
Now, the thing that might obviate against that is that Omar has a little more secure contract status than Jerry does. 1-2 to Castillo. But, you know, the other piece of that is if you have the highest payroll in the National League, and if the Mets don't have the highest, they're right around the highest, you should expect to compete every year. And last year, the Mets, for whatever reasons, injuries, you want to add and everything else, didn't compete.
Well, you said it, Gary, in spring, all spring, and Ronnie, that this I thought that they were going to make moves for pitching, and Omar said, I like my young pitchers. He's rolling the dice with the back of the 2 through 5 pitching rotation and the starters. But he did improve the hitting, and this team will hit, particularly when you get Beltran back and Reyes.
A little bit low and a full count to Castillo.
You know, this ownership group demands excellence in everything that they do. Why would it be any different with their ball club? And I think when you have a high payroll like you mentioned, Gary, and you have talented players, 70 wins is going to put everybody in a hot seat. That's just how it goes.
And ball 4, so Castillo works out a walk against a pitcher who it's tough to draw walks against. And the Mets have a 1-out base runner with David Wright coming up for the second time.
Well,
now, David was almost the first man in the National League to hit a home run this year, but he got beaten by 5 minutes by Albert Pujols. That's no shame.
Right down the line.
Well, Keith and I both say that it'll be interesting to watch this at bat. You'd have to think that the first pitch has got to be inside.
He's got to change the program here. 2 home runs off of him. Last one, the spring training game to right field. Now the opening day home run.
And Paulino set up inside for the first one. Castillo takes off. Paulino's throw not in time. And Castillo has the first stolen base of the year for the Mets, who led the league in steals last year.
Well, nice. This fastball thrown right by right down the pipe. Good throw, strong throw, but just too good a jump. Not going to get him.
Well, that's one of those where Josh Johnson, he gave up a 2-run home run in the first at bat to right. What are you thinking about? Not the runner. You're thinking about the hitter up at the plate. Kind of lost track of Castillo.
Smart baseball by Castillo, who stole 20 bases last year. So he's in scoring position with 1 out. And Wright fouls one away.
There's a fastball in, Ronnie. He's definitely changed the program. David made a lot of changes, works with Howard Johnson. Howard still had David in the minor leagues. As you see, set up in. We're not going to pitch you away anymore. We're not crazy.
Well, David talked a lot early in spring training this year about how last year he felt as though he was feeling for the ball, and all spring we saw him do something very different. He is driving the ball again.
Well, swing the bat. You start feeling you haven't got a chance. You strike out, you strike out. When you feel for the ball, you slow your swing down and you just touch the ball and just satisfied to make contact. And David was going the opposite field. You let the bat rip, and once the ball hits the bat or you swing and miss, it's out of your hands. But when you start kind of just slapping at the ball, which David did last year, and I think he was just completely overwhelmed with the Mo zone out there in right center field.
And he just gets a piece of the slider.
I think it's really the in between being committed or being tentative, and you cannot be in between. You know, you have to be committed to what you're doing. And I think for David, learned a valuable lesson, and that lesson is if you're a major league all-star player, which David Wright is, when you're in trouble and you're struggling, you're an inch away, not a mile away. And I think he chose the mile angle, and that's what really hurt him as he tried to make all those changes.
Castillo at second and 1 out, 1-2 to David. And a look at second. And of course, the other piece of that is that, you know, what he did last year didn't keep him away from strikeouts. As a matter of fact, he boosted his strikeout total the highest it's ever been. So what's the downside of letting it rip?
In such an odd year, he hit 300.
And a 390 on base percentage, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but power numbers way down. 1-2 from Johnson.
They're pounding them in. There's just no question what you have to do.
And I think we all expected, regardless of the pitcher, that we'd see a lot of that with David this year anyway, with pitchers testing him after he got hit in the head last year.
Well, that's honestly for any of these big hitters, whether it's Pujols, who said had a home run today, David, all these talented right-handed hitters, you're going to have to pound them in. Can't let them extend those arms.
And David stays in the at-bat. Well, just for reference, there have been 3 Mets who have hit 2 home runs on opening day.
Not me.
Cleon Jones did it.
Only 3?
Bobby Bonilla did it.
Wow.
And Robin Ventura. Those are the 3 Mets who've hit 2 homers on opening day.
Wow.
Bonilla did it in his first game as a Met in St. Louis.
That's over 40 years worth, right? Going on 50 now.
This is year 49.
Wow.
2-2. Fouls back the fastball, but took a good rip at it.
Well, 13 times in his career, David Wright's had a multi-home run game.
Wouldn't that be something?
What a way to start.
All the talk about his power.
What a way to start the season.
Yes, and to hit it down that corner. Oh, is Rusty in the house?
I didn't know anybody had any of those wigs anymore. Thought those were retired.
There's Big Orange.
The 8th pitch of the at-bat upcoming. And David takes just off the plate.
It's a real battle here.
Johnson, I think, thought he got squeezed by Wally Bell on that last pitch. You see the difference in home run rate. That's a spectacular drop-off last year. And the most severe drop-off for any player since Howard Johnson nearly 20 years ago. Isn't that ironic? 3-2. And the breaking ball inside, and David works out a walk. So back-to-back walks issued by Josh Johnson.
Well, that's the second time Johnson on a 3-2 count has chose to go with the slider. The first time he got a ground out by Francoeur. This time the walk to David Wright.
So a chance for Mike Jacobs with 2 on and 1 out. Jacobs was struck out his first time up.
Well, Josh Johnson would love nothing more than a double play right here, and Jacobs doesn't run well. He's a double play guy. Pull hitter, a bit surprised on the outfield defense. Maben is to the left of second base, the slight shade to the opposite field. I don't get that.
Cantu way off the line at third base. Possible double steal for the Mets.
Huge gap in right center field.
And Jacobs takes it low. And Johnson struggling as he did in his last spring training start against the Mets, a team that he has never lost to. 7-0 in 9 career starts against the Mets, and that pitch count getting high in a hurry. 57 already.
Boy, you'd think that Maben would shade over the right center field with Ross coming off a calf injury.
Well, they're playing just about everybody the other way today. There's a strike. 1-1. You see the numbers for Johnson against the Mets.
That's officially having someone's number right there.
That's Kruko-esque.
Oh, wow. Yes. Kruk.
And Jacobs pops one foul. 1-2. Well, Josh Johnson throws the ball as hard as anybody in the game. Last year, only 2 pitchers in baseball averaged more miles per hour on their fastball among pitchers who qualified for the ERA title.
Wow.
Baldo Hernandez is pitching the opener for the Rockies today, and Verlander is doing the same for the Tigers.
Oh,
Now
boy.
tipped and held, and Jacobs is down swinging. Second time that Johnson has struck out Jacobs. His only 2 strikeouts of the day.
Both on the same pitch, Keith. That fastball away is just beating Jacobs. The one thing he has here, see that little sinker action. The ball moves away from the left-handed hitter.
He threw that with the seams there, didn't he, Ron?
He did.
So that was that more of a dart then?
More of a two-seamer. He just wants the ball to start outside and run away.
Well, here's Jason Bay with 2 out and 2 on. Bay single to left field his first time up. Polino comes back inside, and it's a call strike to Bay. And Polino moving around a lot back there.
I never liked a catcher that moved around. Tony Pena was the Pirate catcher and went over the Cardinals, did that a lot, and hit his glove on the inside corner and then moved out, or he didn't know what he was going to do. It just drove me to distraction, and he knew it. We were great friends and got along great. We never played on the same team, and every time I'd come to the plate, he always chewed tobacco. He would spit on my left foot as I was digging in. And I just go, what the?
Game was so unsanitary in those days.
That's fighting stuff, Tony. Stop it.
Imagine if you were OCD. You wouldn't be able to deal with that.
Running with his Perel.
That's right.
Too high, and it's 2-1. Well, let me ask you about Polino moving around back there. Is that because he thinks that Bay's getting information from Castillo about location?
Could be. Could be. You always got to beware of stealing signs and stealing location.
And veteran base runners on the bases. Those are the guys that usually will try to do that.
And when the catcher sets up inside, Gary, on a right-hander lefty-lefty, it's going to be nothing but a fastball in.
Letter high strike. 2-2 to Bay.
So I always used to like to get location on a lefty, Gary, when I was up, and only when they set up inside.
With those numbers with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, that's how you drive in 119 runs, which is what Bay did last year in Boston. 2-2 from Johnson. And a full count. So Johnson continues to throw a ton of pitches. And now the runners will be in motion with 3 and 2 and 2 down.
That's a question there, Gary, because Bay strikes out a lot also. You don't want to run yourself out of an inning. Here I am daydreaming, folks. Opening day, and I have my first error. There's 2 outs. They will be running.
Third 3 and 2 count of the inning. And Bay fouls it away, and Johnson will have to do it again.
Again, Johnson going to the slider 3-2. When you see a power pitcher go to his breaking pitch on 3-2 now three times against the right-handed hitters, that tells me that he doesn't like his fastball today.
But look at that. That's a good cut, flat, level plane. Love a breaking ball that stays level. Starts out of the hand, stays on the same elevation, and that was a great cut by Bay.
31 pitches in the inning. And Bay will make him throw another.
Yep, and he came up and in.
You know, we showed that graphic stat as we see the pitches this inning, 32, just barely more strikes than balls. That stat we put of 2-out RBI hits is just a stat that is just so underrated. It lifts your team, it gets you an extra run, and even more importantly, deflates the other team and the pitcher, who thinks that he's almost out of the inning, and then no.
This will be the 8th pitch of the at-bat to Bay, with the runners set to go. And swings and misses the breaking ball, and Johnson gets himself through the inning. It cost him 33 pitches, but he keeps the Mets off the board and keeps it a 2-0 game after 3. Today's game will have Chris Carlin and Adam Shine fired up as they discuss the start of the 2010 baseball season and debate all the day's top New York sports stories on Loudmouths, presented by Geico, weekdays at 6 p.m. only on SNY. Cameron Maben leads off the 4th inning against Johan Santana and brings Wright and Jacobs rushing in with that bunt attempt. Maben struck out his first time up. David Wright's 2-run first inning home run has stood up. Been a lot of home runs early in games today on opening day in the National League. Ryan Howard is homered for the Phillies now. They lead the Nats 3-1. Pujols and Colby Rasmus have both homered for the Cardinals. Garrett Jones, who hit 21 as a rookie last year, has already homered for the Pirates. Thought the pitchers were supposed to be ahead of the hitters on opening day. Wasn't that way last night, was it?
No, it was not. 16 runs scored.
1-2 to Maben, and he got him with a changeup again, second time in a row. So Santana's first 2 strikeouts of the day, both against Maben.
Well, anybody with a great changeup, Ronnie, great sink too. Look at that.
You can see, you can barely see the white in his hands as he really grips that ball and keeps it hidden, turns it over. The thing about Santana's changeup is that you can know it's coming and you still can't hit it. That's how good it is.
So what's the solution? Just got to lay off it?
Don't miss that fastball that he pops in there early.
Here's Hanley Ramirez, who flied to right his first time up.
See the grip? You can barely see any of the white in the glove as he holds it with all 4 fingers in that circle grip with his index finger and his thumb.
On the side of the ball, right, Ronnie?
Side of the
ball.
inside
part of the ball.
Out to right field, and that'll go foul. And perhaps in deference to the changeup, David Wright playing right along the line against Hanley Ramirez.
You know, they're doing some of the things that we've seen the Philadelphia Phillies do with Jamie Moyer when he pitches. Santana's going to be pitching a lot in, and also he throws a lot of changes to Ramirez. That's going to get him out front. The ball is going to be pulled into that hole.
Cora way over in that hole on the left side as well.
Boy, I'll say.
Up the middle.
And there's your base hit because he was playing in that hole. Good call, Garrett.
Sometimes you can outthink yourself. And so the Marlins have their second hit of the afternoon.
You can see Cora. That is serious. See, that's like playing Dave Kingman. And look at that hole. And look at Castillo up the middle. But not normally that's 6-3 in your scorecard.
Well, I think that, guys, what we're seeing is that without Reyes here, what you have to do with Alex Cora, who doesn't have the speed and the range of Reyes, is that you have to go to the charts more and have those position Cora where you think the ball is going to be hit more than you would do with Reyes, who can play more straight up.
Ramirez stole 27 bags last year.
Jorge Cantu fouled out to the catcher his first time up.
Well, this is just telling your middle infielder if it's a changeup or a fastball. That's sign language.
And the other thing they'll do, Keith, that you know, is that they'll go to open mouth or closed mouth, depending on the pitch, like you said, to see who's going to cover second base. The way they're aligned now, it would take Cora too long to get over to second base. Castillo has to have it 95% of the time.
Correct.
And Cantu takes high, 2-1. Now, of course, the Mets have Ruben Tejada, the 20-year-old shortstop who played in Double-A last year, on the roster until Reyes gets back. And at this point in his career, Tejada has a lot more range than Cora. And over the next few days, it'll be interesting to see what Jerry decides to do in terms of using Tejada, or whether he's just going to stick with Cora until Reyes gets back.
Well, I think that Jerry's going to go with the veteran Cora until Reyes gets back, and you use Tejada, who's so good defensively, has great range, and can play shortstop and second base in case you have to hit for Cora late in the game.
I don't think Jose is going to be out much longer, to be honest with you.
Well, he's eligible Saturday. That would be the 5th game of the year, and certainly the Mets hope it'll be no longer than that. And the changeup away, and for the first time today, Santana working behind in the count, 3-1 to Cantu.
No, he's in the middle of the meat of this order, and he's got to pitch a little more carefully, Gary. This is a club that has some wallop. They got power.
And one of those big power bats, Ugla, on deck. Cantu the tying run at the plate in a 2-0 game.
Oh, they send him.
There goes Ramirez. Strike called. Barajas' throw can't get there in time. And Ramirez has the stolen base after stealing 27 last year.
Perfect pitch to steal. Good pitch to throw, but it was a changeup, Ron, and that was enough right there. Forget about it.
Hard thing about a changeup for the catcher is that they know the runner's going, but they have to wait for the ball to get to them. And by the time it did, no chance of getting Ramirez.
And a pitcher can't be too concerned about the stolen base when you got a hitter like this.
Well, it's something that usually doesn't concern Santana at all. He gave up 1 stolen base all of last year in 25 starts. And even on that pitch, he looked the runner back as he was throwing home. Line past the glove.
Foul.
Foul.
right on the right on the line.
Well, we talked about it, how they're playing the line, and even though that's a foul ball, David almost caught it.
That's double written all over it. 2-1 ball game.
I don't know if we're going to stay with James Hoy as this stays foul. Watch James Hoy, the third base umpire. Give it to us, James. He gives us the real emphatic no, and it's foul. Nice.
First, he got his chin out of the way. That was the most important first step.
I like umpires that are theatrical.
Yeah.
The Ron Luciano guy?
Yes. Well, he was a little overboard.
Here's the 3-2, and Cantu fouls it back.
Good cut.
Keith is more of a basketball Mendy Rudolph guy.
I see.
Mendy Rudolph was one of folks who was a referee in the NBA for years, and when I was a kid growing up and in high school, and he knew the moment when it was late in the game to call that 3-point play.
Yes, and it counts. That's where Marv got it from, you know. He got it from Mendy Rudolph.
Oh, we did.
Yep. Again, the 3-2, and Cantu fouls it back.
Right after him. I wonder if he's going to pull the string on him here. Run two straight fastballs up and in.
See what Cantu did last year with runners in scoring position. That's how he drove in 100 runs. Also had 42 doubles last year. When people talk about home runs, doubles can get a lot of RBIs too when you're hitting in the middle of a talented order. The Marlins were 5th in the National League in runs scored last year. They can hit.
They're going back in.
9th pitch of the at bat, and the changeup fouled off.
Well, wake up call. Oh. And let me tell you, that rocks your jaw. Let me tell you. All that padding, and you got a sore jaw there.
Well, they always talk about the bell ringing on opening day.
That's right.
That's the bell you don't want to hear rung. So another long turn at bat. Both pitchers have suffered through a bunch of these already today. And Cantu lifts one foul. Marlins won 87 games last year to finish second to the Phillies in the National League East.
Looked like Santana kind of goosed that one, Ronnie, and kind of telegraphed that changeup. That's the first time he's done that, and we saw that a lot last year because of the tender elbow. I'm not suggesting that his elbow's sore, but he did kind of telegraph that changeup.
Well, Santana had an 11-pitch confrontation with Sanchez last inning. This will be the 11th pitch to Cantu. And he walked him.
Tough at bat.
So the Marlins now have the tying runs on base with Dan Uggla coming up. And this is one of those spots early in a ball game that could be a turning point in this game for Santana.
And that's why Dan Worth and the pitching coach is going to come out and really to give Johan a little respite here after that tough at bat. Talk about what they're going to do in facing Uggla, who Santana has his number.
Uggla's just 1 for 18 against Santana. That one, though, was a home run, and that's about the way it goes for Uggla. He's an all-or-nothing hitter.
This is the first time that Johan has been a little out of sorts here. Keith mentioned it. He's getting underneath his changeup a little bit. He's thrown a 3-2 slider there. His third pitch to Cantu to walk him. It's a very interesting pitch. Just trying something different. But Uggla, again, a guy who hits the ball hard. If you get him to hit it on the ground, you got a chance for 2.
So a big batter for Santana. Uggla grounded out to David Wright his first time up, but again, Wright playing toward the line against the right-hand batter.
And deep. Fastball hitter. Oh boy.
Uggla gets a first pitch changeup, but up out of the strike zone.
I do not like what I see with the delivery on that changeup. It's been 4 changeups he's thrown since the first 4 total since the first time he telegraphed. He's telegraphed 4 in a row.
Barajas moving away. And Uggla lifts one out to right center. A long run over for Gary Matthews. He gets there and he makes the grab. Both runners tagging and moving up. As Matthews had to go a long way to catch that ball over in the gap. Ramirez faking as though he's going to go home, but Castillo wisely just running it in.
Well, he kind of got a little bit of the wind there. He did remember now. Gary Matthews never played here, and he's going to have to get used to the wind. Now, watch both runners. You don't know if the ball's going to be caught. It's a fly ball. Now you know. It's going to be caught. Get back. Beautiful. That's both base runners. Outstanding. And Matthews has got to realize he's got no shot to get the runner at third, and you throw a strike at second base.
I think we saw a little bit there of something we saw early last year when outfielders were just adjusting to this new park. As Ronnie Paulino steps in, you've got the gaps between the big scoreboard in center field, the stands in left, and the scoreboard in right, and you've got wind tunnels there that create very different pockets. And I think Matthews just got introduced to those pockets of wind.
And this is not a windy day.
0-2 to Paulino.
Keith, your favorite. When Santana gets in trouble, he goes right to that fastball.
Now he's 0-2 and can do anything he wants, Ron. Doesn't have to throw a strike.
Popped it up. And Matthews comes charging in. Plenty of time to get there. And the inning is over. Matthews staggered. So is Santana, but not beaten. 2-0 Mets.
It's opening day at Citi Field, and the Mets lead the Marlins 2-0. David Wright with a home run in the first inning off Josh Johnson. That's where we stand right now. Johan Santana getting out of a jam. Gary Matthews Jr. will lead it off for the Mets here, and he had such an interesting baseball life early because, of course, his father, Gary Matthews Sr., the Sarge, was a professional player and a good one, too, for the Giants and then the Braves. And he remembers more, even though he grew up in San Francisco, his earliest baseball memories are going to Candlestick when his dad came to town with the Braves. And he said, boy, I really remember Dale Murphy, who always treated me great. He would let me open his new box of bats, and we would take one out. He'd let me pick the ones he would swing in the game. And then he pushed me around the shopping cart that they used to collect the laundry. And he said that clubhouse culture, I got introduced to it when I was like 4 years old, and it was the culture that got me into baseball, not the other way around. You know, the preparation part. He said I would watch my dad put on his uniform piece by piece, and I loved it. And I still put on my uniform like he put on his uniform, and there he hits like his dad as Gary Matthews Jr. leads it off with a single here. And, you know, funny story, guys. How about this? I asked him how much he emulated him, and he said, well, I remember when I was young watching him on television, I saw he had the wad of tobacco in his mouth, and he kept spitting. So my mom was in the other room. I went and I was swinging his bat, his big bat, or at least trying to swing it. I went and got a wad of raisins, and I stuffed it in my mouth, and then I started spitting raisin juice. The problem was he had a white carpet. Mom wasn't too thrilled about that. Guys, back to you.
Well, that base hit for Gary Matthews Jr., a long time in coming. Gary made his Mets debut 8 years ago. He made the team out of spring training in 2002. He played in 2 games. He got 1 at bat. He went 0 for 1. And now 8 years later on opening day, he finally has his first Met hit. Jeff Francoeur grounded out to third his first time up. And that one gets behind Paulino, and Matthews takes off, and he'll make second without a throw.
Well, that's going to be a wild pitch, but it's not a very good job by Paulino here. Look at that. Box it and send me a dozen. He's got to smother that ball, and his glove's the wrong way. The backhand will never work. And good heads up by Matthews. Didn't hesitate.
So a runner in scoring position with nobody out, with the number 7 hitter at the plate. And it's 2-0 to Francoeur with Ron Barajas on deck.
Good eye.
And Johnson behind 3-0.
Good patience here. And this is what we've seen from Francoeur, what he's worked on. That was a pitch that he would always flail at.
A lot of pitches for Josh Johnson working with nobody out in the 4th inning.
Look at the paper flying around there in front of home plate. No thanks. How can you concentrate?
And swirling in a little eddy right in front of home plate. And that's a strike. Francoeur thought he might have the the rare base on balls.
You know, in the past, I always found Jeff Francoeur to be kind of a premeditated kind of swinger. He would decide before the pitch was even thrown whether he was going to swing at it or not. Looks like he has changed that now with the Mets.
And ball 4, and Francoeur's on with a walk. Well, Jeff said something very interesting about the way that Howard Johnson worked with him as Randy St. Clair, the new Marlins pitching coach, goes to the mound to talk to Johnson. He said, when I was with the Braves, all they cared about was that I wasn't walking enough. Whereas when I came to the Mets, Howard Johnson and Jerry Manuel never talked about walks. They just talked a little bit more about pitch recognition. And so rather than work from the result backwards, they were working from the process forward, and I think it's taken hold with Jeff a little bit.
And I think that communication with anyone is important, but working from the Braves, working really from a negative point of view as opposed to Mets from a positive.
So the lefty Dan Meyer up in the Florida bullpen, the reconfigured bullpens here at Citi Field.
I was there this morning. They're beautiful.
I know the pitchers could not be happier. Last year you had the Mets bullpen in front and the visitors behind. Now they're side by side, and it'll be easier for the fans to see the pitchers warming up as well. And for us, look, we can see Dan Meyer. There he is. So 2 on and nobody out. Barajas will step in.
So they have dropped the they'll bring down the wall. No more Iron Curtain out there in that bullpen.
No gulag.
No more east and west. There's the strike.
Wow. Very nice.
A sunshine day.
Crystal clear.
Barajas fly to center his first time. 19 home runs last year as a Toronto Blue Jay. And he lays off 1-1.
He's laboring, Ronnie.
Yeah, his velocity is down. He's having a hard time hitting his spots. And watching Barajas, I think he's the kind of hitter. He lets the ball middle of the plate in.
Not a guy who generally waits around a lot at the plate. Just a .258 on base percentage last year. But he takes that one off the plate, and so he's being patient in this spot. Got the pitcher Santana on deck. How aggressive do you want your 8-hitter to be here with the pitcher next?
Oh, you want him aggressive. You get a pitch to hit. He's not up there to mess around. You're up there to drive a run in.
And Barajas pops one up behind short. Ramirez out. That ball may fall, and it does. And the bases are loaded. Maben never really saw it, and Ramirez gave up on it, and it just fell into no man's land.
Well, when you assume that's what happens, Maben just got a horrific jump on this ball. This would have been a tough play. It would have been a tough play for Ramirez, and you got to go halfway here.
You know, that was 3 guys looking for the other guy to make the play, as opposed to someone really taking concentrated effort to go get it.
It is not an easy day in that outfield. We've already seen it on a couple of balls that Matthews has caught with the sun and the breeze kicking up now. There you see the wind, which is blowing pretty much straight out now. Atop the center field fence. So Santana bats with the bases loaded and nobody out. And Johan lifts the first pitch behind short. This one should be playable. Coming on is Coghlan to make the grab, and Matthews is going nowhere, forcing the throw. That's the first out.
Now that's nice. That's a little thing done right there that Matthews did. Don't force that left fielder to throw the ball in, even though you're not going to go. He might throw it away. Man. See, he could have just said, okay, I can't score on this. Let me just sit here and take a break. But watch, he forces the throw. It might take a bad hop. Anything could happen.
You're right, and he missed the cutoff man. So you're right, Keith. It could have taken a hop away from the catcher.
It's part of the attention to detail that has been so prominent in Mets spring training this year. All those little things. So here's Alec Cora, bases loaded, 1 out. Cora is 0 for 1. Hit by a pitch, hit a comebacker. Toward the middle, Ramirez snags it. It's going to be a double play to end the inning. He picked that one up right before it was going to hit the dirt, and he takes it to the bag. Hanley Ramirez turning the unassisted double play to get Josh Johnson out of a big-time jam. It's still 2-0 New York. Baseball is back, and Jonas Schwartz and Joe Beningo have plenty to talk about as they debate the Mets and Yanks with the Daily News beat writers behind all the top New York sports stories on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, weekdays at 5 on SNY. Johan Santana back to the mound with a 2-0 lead as we start the 5th. Mets had a bases loaded, nobody out opportunity, but just 2 pitches later, Josh Johnson was able to get himself out of it by retiring Santana on a pop-up and then getting the line drive double play. We have our first beach ball of the season on the field, and Jeff Francoeur tried unsuccessfully to kick it over the sidewall.
Francoeur makes like Ronaldo out there in right field.
Garo, your premium.
He needs to use a little more of the side of his foot. I think there was a little too much toe in that approach. Here's Cody Ross leading off the 5th, and he pops one up behind first. Castillo with the angle goes back and makes the one-handed grab. 1 pitch and 1 out.
Well, nice play by Louis on this pop-up to right field. Santana in need of an easy inning. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Bottom of the order.
Action continues in the Marlins bullpen. Burke Badenhop is up, and with Josh Johnson having thrown 81 pitches in 4 innings, at least Freddie Gonzalez will give himself the option of going to a pinch hitter. For the moment, Johnson is coming out on deck. Gabby Sanchez has one of the 2 hits for Florida this afternoon. Singled up the middle during an 11-pitch marathon.
The terrific at bat that he had against a very, very tough Santana.
Oh, 0-2 to Sanchez. Now here's our AT&T trivia question for today. What 2 Met players hold the franchise record for the most starts on opening day? Is that
player? Or?
Is that pitcher or player? I guess it means
everyday players.
0-2 to Sanchez, and he punches 1 foul.
Oh, Buddy maybe he's got to be in there. No.
Cleon Jones, Bud Harrelson, Cranepool. Changeup misses, and it's 1-2. Trying to think if there's anybody more recent who was around long enough to be in that conversation.
Receiver had 11, right? On his own right.
Yeah.
Oh, another ball out there.
It's a different one. It's a little smaller version, and Jeff's not going to try and kick it. Because you can't throw those things very far either, even if you have that good an arm.
That's a field mouse ball.
It's our first field mouse reference of the season. I'm going to keep track this year.
Very nice.
1-2 from Santana. And Sanchez again making Johan work.
Well, they've got a lot of talent down in that minor league system. Logan Morrison, fine first baseman in AAA for the Florida Marlins. Sanchez won the job with an outstanding spring, but Morrison seems to be the guy that is going to get some playing time in the future.
Logan Morrison is the Ike Davis of the Marlins. The guy looming.
Nice at that.
Got his hands inside that ball and almost kept it fair. That was quite a job by Sanchez on a pitch low and in.
Listen, having an impressive opening day here. He's putting together 2 good at bat. A little cutter around.
Yeah, a little slider cutter by Santana down and in. Fooled Sanchez, but you know, it's interesting for a guy that was acclaimed more of as a power kind of hitter. It seems with 2 strikes, he really cuts down his swing and tries to put the ball in play.
Hit .289 last year in AAA. Had just 21 big league at bats. Born and raised in Miami, went to the University of Miami, and now playing for his hometown team. Gabby Sanchez asking for time.
And he's one of those players that is a little insurance for Freddie Gonzalez and the Florida Marlins. He was a catcher in college, caught some in the minor league, so they have that emergency guy if they need it.
Very underrated manager right there.
1-2.
Good eye. I tell you, I'm impressed. Freddie Gonzalez, I'm going to tell you, this team has overachieved under his tenure. I just think he's terrific.
In the air to right, and Francoeur steadies. Now that wind really carrying that ball, almost like a beach ball. 2 outs. This is such a strange outfield in terms of the wind that we mentioned earlier because of the way the stands and the scoreboards are configured. You have little wind tunnels here and there. And this is one of those places where if you're a visiting team coming in for the first time before a series, you got to do a lot of work out there with all the angles and all the wind currents. Josh Johnson will bat and takes a strike.
It's almost because it's the highest part of the stadium. Bay's the most shielded of anyone in left field.
And Santana gets ahead on Johnson 0-2. Johnson sacrificed his first time up. And it's in for a call, strike 3. Santana has his 3rd strikeout of the afternoon. Halfway through, David Wright delivered the keynote with a 2-run homer in the first. He'll get another turn at bat in the bottom of the 5th. Visit the official online shop of the Mets at Mets.com. Browse the largest selection of official gear, including the latest apparel, nostalgic memorabilia, and authentic classics for the whole family. Get your gear from the official source, the Mets.com shop. Accept no substitutes. Take a look at the Harris 5th inning recap. David Wright's 2-run homer in the first off Josh Johnson representing all the scoring. Johan Santana has allowed just 2 hits over 5 innings as he has held off the Marlins in his 5th opening day start. And the Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 5th, looking to build on a 2-0 lead with Luis Castillo to lead off. Castillo has reached on a fielder's choice, walked, stolen a base, and scored a run.
Well, they're shading him the opposite field and shallow, as they should. We know that Louis has more power from the right side of the plate.
It's amazing when you see how shallow they play him in the outfield and toward the line that he ever gets a hit to the outfield.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's hard to hit 300 when they're giving you so little of the field to shoot at.
There's a lot of bodies in a small amount of space. You're right.
I mean, because he's not going to hit it over the left fielder's head maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Which is why they can afford to play that shallow. Slapped out to short where Ramirez has it.
Beautiful pitch, up and in fastball, tied up Louis right there.
So 1 away, and David Wright comes up for his 3rd turn at the plate. An opposite field 2-run homer in the first, a 9-pitch walk in the 3rd.
Well, he started him first at bat with a fastball away. Second at bat, fastball in after the 2-run home run. Be very interesting to see if he tries a little get me over slider to get ahead in the count against Wright.
I would be more inclined as a hitter to look first pitch fastball in and just take a wallop at it and try to pull it. But you called it, Ronnie. Slider away.
And in the outfield, they're playing David not only a couple of steps to right, but very shallow.
Look at center field. A lot of space. Oh, I'm still brutal on that telestrator.
Hit hard, caught by Cantu. And Wright is retired for the first time.
Well, that's nice to see. And David likes to set up away and go the opposite field, and Harry gets a fastball and pulls it. So Ronnie, you called it. Before we started this game, you felt that you tapped me on the shoulder and said, I think David Wright's going to have a great year, and I think you're right.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Mike Jacobs, who's been up twice and struck out both times. And he breaks his bat. It's a little pop up near the mound. And coming in is Uggla to handle it. And the Mets are quick prey for Johnson in the 5th. Through 5, 2-0. 6th inning on opening day at Citi Field. And Johan Santana begins his 3rd tour of the Marlins batting order.
Top of the order. In at the corners.
Chris Coghlan's been up twice, fouled out both times. And he takes a slider for ball 1.
See right there, playing against the potential drag bunt. David way off the line for the outfield play in the opposite field. David way off that line.
And Coghlan hits one up the middle, a base hit. Just the 3rd Marlins hit of the afternoon. And the first time all day they've had the leadoff man on against Santana. Right now it's time Schwartz in the studio for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break.
All right, Gary, Phillies and the Nationals. Phil's down 1-0 in the fourth. Ryan Howard changes that. 2-run shot off John Lannon. Roy Halladay in his debut. 7 strikeouts, 1 run through 5 innings. It is 7-1 Phils. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jonas. Cameron Maben steps in, tying run at the plate in a 2-0 game. Maben's been up twice and struck out both times. And Santana misses low.
They had Maben in the offseason and in spring. His back elbow, he was more parallel to the ground. They had him make it more vertical to shorten up his stroke, and that is this arm right here, obviously.
Yeah, you make that more vertical.
Well, look at that. He's going back to his old way. He's got that horizontal. Interesting. You know, it's hard to break old habits. Yeah. It really is. And you know, Murph this year, they got Daniel Murphy to get less crouched and more straight up, and he struggled. It's hard to change a hitter. He's done something his whole life one way. I think you can give a hitter an approach, but it's tough to change their mechanics and their swing.
So far, Santana's been able to dominate Maben with his changeup. And the fastball in for a strike, 1-2.
I wonder what he was thinking there. Gosh. If you're going to do that, you got a bunt. Now you're 1-2.
Well, here's a young man they probably stressed all spring training to get a few base hits via the bunt during the season, but certainly not the time there to try to fake a bunt as he got a fastball down the middle.
See those feet spread way apart. Santana ahead 1-2. And what's that?
I don't know.
Now that's bizarre.
That is. It's like I can't hit this guy. I quit.
But with 2 strikes,
I understand. But that's even more so. I quit.
I'd have to have the third base coach come down and have a little discussion with my hitter.
Unless that's the sign he got. Joe Espada, the new third base coach for the Marlins this year, didn't react as though that were a problem. Maybe he got a sign. 2-2. Up there to swing. Hits it down the right field side, foul.
So I forgot we lose the pop-ups, Gary, and the high fly balls with the overhang here. We don't know where they're going. We know where they're going, but we don't know if they're going to stay in play.
We weren't supposed to tell anybody that, by the way.
There's our overhang. But that gives the fans a nice seat, and we will sacrifice that. Gary's brilliance will override that hindrance to us for the fans to have a much better seat.
Fans always come first.
Absolutely.
Santana checks in on Coughlin, who had 8 steals as a rookie last year, caught 5 times, so a leadoff hitter not for his base stealer.
That's a nice angle right there.
Barajas moves away, and this changeup gets him again. Third time in a row that Santana has struck out Maben with a changeup.
3 of Santana's 4 strikeouts.
Maben starts out right on the outside corner, twists its way off the corner, and after 3 strikeouts here from Maben, that'll get you walking the streets of Broadway till all hours of the off day tomorrow.
And in that at bat, Santana's changeup had more movement away than he had earlier in the game.
He'll turn it over more when he wants to make sure it's out of the strike zone.
I think he's had that good sink on his changeup the whole game, Gary. That's what I see. I love it when he has that sinking change.
Here's Hanley Ramirez, who has one of the 3 Marlin hits, single to center his last time up, and he takes a strike. Hanley just 3 for 17 now in his career against Santana, who's about to throw his 90th pitch of the afternoon.
And you know, Gary, we've watched him enough now over the years. He has a tough time with Santana, but he has quality at bats. It's a tough pitcher out there.
Standing.
Well, after Ramirez stealing the base, it's not that Santana really is trying to pick off Coughlin. He's just letting him know that I'm aware that you're over there. No more stolen bases this afternoon.
Maybe not this season. He's given up his quota for the year. See that big hole on the right side for Ramirez, with Castillo shading up the middle. Coghlan runs, swing and a miss, and Morales can't handle it. And there's stolen base number 2 for the Marlins today. More than Santana gave up all of last year.
Nope, just couldn't get the handle.
You know, that tells me something, though. With Ramirez stealing and now Coghlan stealing, I would have to say that I think that the Marlins must have something on Santana, a little trigger that they know when he's going to the plate, because that's highly unusual to see that happen twice.
Not a great jump by Coghlan. Nope. If he comes up throwing and makes a good throw, he's got him.
So now runner in scoring position with 1 out, but Santana has an 0-2 advantage against Ramirez with Cantu on deck. Struck him out. And the Ramirez down on strikes. Back-to-back Ks for Santana. 5 for the afternoon.
Well, climbing the ladder on these good hitters is a great way to go. Santana elevates that fastball, that four-seamer, and just throws it really right by Ramirez.
So now 2 out. And Fernando Nieve is the first man up in the Mets bullpen. Nieve has been a starter for most of his career. Battled for the 5th starter's job this spring, but now in the flip-a-coin Mets bullpen. Here's Jorge Cantu with a runner at second and 2 out. He swings and misses at the fastball. Before the game today, Jerry Manuel was asked what was his biggest concern for this club, and he said unequivocally the bullpen. I mean, he's got 2 known quantities in Francisco Rodriguez and Pedro Feliciano, and 5 guys that he just has no idea what he's going to get. And hoping that somebody takes charge to be the bridge to K-Rod. And Nieve may be part of that answer. The one thing that Jerry doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to put too much pressure on Henry Mejia in the opening week of the season.
Well, I think the problem you have is that you'd love to have relievers with roles. There's no roles out there right now, Gary, other than K-Rod and Feliciano. So what you do have is that you are going to, on the fly, learn who belongs where.
Good change up, and it's 1-2. Well, that's one thing Jerry has said from the day he took over as manager. He said, I don't give relievers roles. As you look at that last changeup, he said relievers make their own roles.
What do you think, Keith? 1-2, that nice changeup away. You can double up, but how about one more fastball in?
I like the changeup sinking for a bad pitch. Okay. Go fishing. Too good a fastball hitter here. One swing, it's tie ball game. They're going to go in.
Down the left field line, hooking toward the corner. That's an extra base hit for Cantu, and the Marlins are on the scoreboard. Coghlan scores, the throw to second, and just is Cantu with a double. Jason Bay making a terrific throw from the left field corner, but it's an RBI double for Cantu, and it cuts the Met lead to 2-1.
Fastball in, Ronnie. I told you I was afraid a good fastball hitter. Boy, he was turned on that. Not a bad pitch. Probably we could have had it a little bit up more. Coughlin's going to score easily. He can just coast it in. But nice throw by Bay. Close. Oh, boy. Oh, wow. Well, he's safe. Just got there.
Very close. Question is, did he get him with that first swipe before he got him further up on the shin? So Cantu, who had 42 doubles and 100 RBIs last year, has his first of each. And here's Uggla with the tying run at second base.
Here it is again. Let's see if he clipped his foot.
Right there.
Oh, it's tough to tell from our angle.
But watch his right foot. It seems to go on the outside of the bag and never touch the bag.
I don't think he touched him. I think he's. Oh, you're right. Nope, his back foot came in.
Tough call either way.
That's why.
A couple of bad changeups in a row there from Santana, 2-0.
And Ronnie brings up a good point. When that foot came off the bag on the slide, and the back foot was a split second where he was off the bag. And all you kids out there, when you make a tag, keep the glove on the runner, because he may come off the bag.
Jeff Nelson was not making the call. Laz Diaz came from first base to make that call at second.
That's tough positioning for Diaz there. Never got on the other side where he could really see that play. Blocked out by the runner.
2-0 to Dan Uggla.
Oh boy, missed
Castillo made a run to the bag when Santana threw that pitch.
So from that angle we had there from the high third, he didn't make the tag on the foot. And here's your Coors Light freeze cam, my favorite.
It's whether he brushed it on the way back. Foot on the other side of the bag.
Did he get the shoelace there?
Yeah. Hey, it's a hit batter if it hits your shirt.
Sure.
Why not?
Shoelaces count. That's 3 changeups in this at bat that Santana has not thrown crisply.
He's come under it, right, Ronnie?
I think what happened is that he put everything into that Cantu at bat, and I think what happened, Cantu got him on that inside pitch, and there's kind of a letdown here for Santana.
This will be Johan's 100th pitch of the afternoon, coming with 2 out in the 6th.
I think he's very careful here with an open base for RJ.
I agree. I think with the open base, even though you don't want to put the runner on, Paulino has power, but certainly not the dangerous hitter that Uggla is.
Absolutely. Even though you're putting on the go-ahead run.
You got Paulino with 2 men on to end the 4th inning. 3-1 now to Uggla with first base open. And he threw him another changeup. This one a better one. Uggla thought it was ball 4, but it was called a strike. And it's 3-2.
You never want to show an umpire up, and you see Uggla, he's not showing him up.
I always felt, though, as a pitcher, when the hitter did that on 3-1 and threw his bat, anywhere close, I'm going to get the call.
Unless it was Pete Rose.
The man you could not throw a strike to.
Well, that got the crowd fired up. 3-2 to Dan Uggla. And he walked him.
I don't think Santana had any intention of pitching to Uggla, Ronnie.
So he threw him 6 pitches, 5 changeups.
And you think about it, Uggla's 1 for 19 against him, but when you're a pitcher, you know which guys are the dangerous ones, and he identified Uggla before the game. It's one of those guys he did not want to beat him.
So now with Santana up over 100 pitches for the afternoon, you would figure that his assignment here is to get Paulino and then leave it to the bullpen the rest of the way.
Well, I would like him to go 7.
The problem you have here is that even if you decide to take Santana out, and I'm sure he does not want to come out, you bring Baker into the game, the left-handed hitter. If you bring in Nieve, and Baker's a better contact hitter than Paulino.
Very good point, Ronnie.
Yeah, I don't think that you're taking him out here. But you're asking him to get Paulino and finish his 6, and that's his job for the day.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, we got an off day tomorrow. The Mets are going to go 5-man rotation. He's going to have an extra day off. So I would ask him, hey, give me 7. There was a day we wouldn't even talk about this, would we, Ronnie? There wouldn't be a question.
They've changed in midstream.
So the tying run, Cantu is at second. The potential lead run, Uggla is at first with 2 out. Ronnie Paulino twice is flying to center field. Castillo again makes a run to the bag, and again Santana throws home. That's the 2nd time this inning that's happened.
Yep. A lot of times pitchers just get focused on, they get in the jam, and they just get in tunnel vision. No offense. Right?
No, the problem you have here, though, is that opens up that entire right side for Paulino.
You ain't kidding. No, aren't kidding.
He's not. And Paulino hits another one to center field. Plenty of room for Gary Matthews Jr. And he puts it away to end the inning. Marlins get a run, but the Mets keep the lead. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by the New York State Smokers Quit Line. By StubHub, it's easier than ever to buy and sell Mets tickets on StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the New York Mets. And by Go RVing. Visit GoRVing.com to watch a free video. Go affordably. Go RVing. Beautiful shot of the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. What a glorious day in New York.
Boy, oh boy.
I could look at that bridge all day, by the way.
This kind of day makes me want to wish I was living in Manhattan again.
I look at those two bridges from my apartment. Can I tell you, it's just get mesmerized at times. There's a pretty good bridge right there.
The newly renamed or newly named Shea Bridge. I guess it didn't have a name last year, did it? Jason Bay swings and misses.
I'll tell you,
we start the bottom of the 6th.
Jason Bay has faced 2 of the best sliders that Johnson has thrown all day. He's been inconsistent with his slider, but Bay has faced his 2 best sliders. Oh, the hanger.
And he fouls it away, and Johnson gets ahead 0-2. Part of the sellout crowd here at Citi Field on a sun-splashed afternoon. Should be beautiful weather for the remainder of this series, Wednesday and Thursday nights. Bay is 1 for 2. He's singled and struck out. And there's a slider off the plate, 1-2. Well, Josh Johnson struggled through the 3rd and 4th innings, but appears to have hit a bit of a groove. Just inside 2-2, and against a pitcher the Mets have never beaten. They are clinging to a 2-1 lead. And Bay, it's a rocket to left center field. That's up the gap and going toward the wall. Bay racing to second. He's going to take a turn and try for 3. And he's in safely with a 3-base hit. Jason Bay's not a burner, but he understands how deep these gaps are, and he was thinking 3 all the way.
Well, the play's right in front of him, Gary. When you're right now, when that ball rolls to the wall, Bay has a look at it. He knows it's in the gap. Now he makes the turn. He sees it's going to go to the wall. Now it's all in front of him. Doesn't need his third base coach. Beautiful. Nicely done.
He had 3 triples last year. That's the 24th triple of his major league career. And it comes leading off in the bottom of the 6th.
The first 60 feet of Bay busting out of the box was the reason he was able to get that triple.
And the Marlins are forced here in the 6th to come in. I agree. They got to try to cut this run off. Nice at bat by Bay. Fastball didn't get in enough. Very.
Matthews is 1 for 2. And Junior takes ball 1.
If you're going to make a mistake into Bay, it's got to be down. Can't be up.
Too much plate.
And that
Way too much.
IOTV pitch differential, you can see difference of about 1.5 feet there.
And the dirt knocked down by Polino. 2-0.
Hey, if it was that easy, Ronnie, then everybody out there in the ballpark would be able to play this game on a major league level.
I was just thinking, how many times did I miss going in? Too many.
Well, with the absence of Carlos Beltran, so much weight on David Wright and Jason Bay in the middle of that order. Wright is homered today, and now Bay with a single and a triple. 2-0 to Matthews, and there's ball 3 with Frank Cora on deck.
He doesn't want to walk Matthews. Matthews can run a bit. He can steal a base.
Question is, if he does walk Matthews, if you're the Marlins, do you keep the infield in, or do you drop back for the double play?
That's why they pay Freddie Gonzalez the big bucks.
Already down by a run.
I think I'd have to play for 2 in at the corners.
There's a strike, 3-1.
Well, I'd have to say, if you're Gary Matthews right here, 3-1 count, you're not going to get anything inside. You almost eliminate it and try to shoot that ball the other way. Johnson's best pitch is his sinking fastball away. When you're in trouble, where do you go? Your best pitch.
And that's ball 4, and the Mets have runners at the corners with nobody out.
That pitch could have been a strike.
Dan Meyer, the lefty, is up. So is Clay Hensley, the right-hander.
And that's going to be it. Here comes Freddie.
So with Josh Johnson at 99 pitches for the afternoon, he will take an exit from his opening day start. Potentially is going to lose to the Mets for the first time in his career. 2-1 New York as the Marlins go to the bullpen, brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. And leaves runners at first and third with nobody out as the former San Diego Padre Clay Hensley comes in.
Yeah, that's where he had his best years. And in fact, in spring training, he was in line to be the 5th starter until they acquired the left-hander Nate Robertson.
Jeff Francoeur, first pitch swinging, fouls one back. Coming back, Polino for a look, but that's back in the crowd. Hensley. A leadoff triple by Jason Bay. A walk to Gary Matthews have put the Mets in business.
Hensley, a sinker ball pitcher. And you see the defense right there, Gary. They're going to play back for 2. It's the 6th inning. You got 3 more cracks at the Met pitching. You would concede a run here. You're only 2 runs down. You can come back.
Hensley spent all of last year in the minor leagues, mostly in the Houston system, but pitched spectacularly during spring training this year for Florida. There goes Matthews, and Frank Cora lifts one to center, deep enough to get the run home as Bay tags at third. Maben makes the catch. His throw goes to second. Bay comes in to score. Sacrifice fly for Jeff Frank Cora makes it 3-1 New York.
Situational hitting, Keith. You gotta love it.
Well, you gotta put the ball in play here. It's a big run out there. It's a big insurance run. And Frank Cora went. Is that a change run?
Change up, but he threw it a little too hard.
He threw it inside too. Why would you throw Frank Cora change up? I don't understand that.
So the Mets counter the run that the Marlins put up in the top of the inning and go back up by 2. 1 out and 1 on for Rod Barajas. Nobody has come out of the on-deck circle as yet for the Mets, who have action going in the bullpen. Santana's thrown 103 pitches so far.
Well, if you got the clock on Clay Hensley right now, razor shines at first base, the first base coach, he takes forever to deliver the ball to home plate.
It does appear Santana is done. Angel Pagan is coming out on deck. Matthews stole 4 bases last year for the Angels. Razor Shines, who has moved from third base to first base coaching duties this year, and the new Met third base coach Chip Hale, who has been a ball of fire all spring. And it throws it away off the railing and into the dugout, and Matthews will have to stop at second.
First error of the ball game here.
Well, Sanchez got a glove on it.
Well, it's not spring training. Things changed a little bit. Put a little pressure on these guys, and a ill throw there from Mr. Hensley.
Isanori Takahashi, the left-hander, joins Fernando Nieve, the right-hander, in the Mets bullpen.
Well, they're all right-hand hitters coming up. It's going to be Nieve.
Barajas hits one to center, chasing Maben back, and it's over his head. Around third comes Matthews. He'll score. Rod Barajas with an RBI double, and it's 4-1 New York.
Wants it away, right down Broadway. Bell tie. Fastball. Cross seam. Right down Broadway.
Well, you mentioned it, Keith. He's a sinker ball pitcher. Hasn't thrown a sinker yet.
Maben, who's played shallow the whole ball game, got beat on that one. Matthews does the proper thing. Holds. Scores easily.
Well, you know, Barajas has power, and he uses that power to drive in his first run of the year. The Mets now with a 4-1 lead. Angel Pagan will now bat for Santana, who leaves after 6 strong innings. And Pagan lines one into right center for a base hit. Barajas lumbers around third. He's heading home, and it's 5-1 New York. Angel Pagan comes through with a pinch hit RBI.
And that's going to be all for Clay Hensley.
So Hensley, after the fine spring, comes in, faces 3 batters, gives up 2 hits. Mets have 3 runs home in the 6th and still going as the Marlins go to the bullpen again. It's 5-1 New York. Well, Johan Santana sitting on top of the world now with a 5-1 lead as he's taken his exit. Josh Johnson winds up giving up 4 runs and 5 hits over 5 innings plus. Get to Citi Field as the series with the Marlins continues Wednesday night at 7:10. Tickets start at $11. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your tickets now. Lefty Dan Meyer comes on to pitch for the Marlins.
All those numbers, the 3 wins, 2 losses, 2 saves, ERA, and appearances, 71, all career highs for Dan Meyer last year.
Grew up in South Jersey, first-round draft pick by the Braves back in '02. Alex Cora will come on to face him. So Meyer brought in to face the left-hand hitter after Angel Pagan came through with a pinch hit RBI single on the first pitch he's seen this season. So both halves of the Mets center field platoon, if you want to call it that, contributing in this inning, Matthews and Pagan. Cora 0 for 2. He's also been hit by a pitch. He came up with the bases loaded in the 4th inning with 1 out. Hit a low line drive toward the middle, and Hanley Ramirez made a diving catch of the liner and turned it into a double play to get Josh Johnson out of a big time jam.
Keith, 1-0 count here. Do you push the envelope, push the accelerator a little, maybe hit and run?
You could. If Cora goes the other way, you know me, I love to hit and run.
1-1 to Alex with the switch hitting Luis Castillo on deck. There goes Pagan. He's picked off, but it's thrown away. Pagan goes sliding, but he can get up and go to third. Ball just run down by Sanchez. So the second error on a pickoff throw this inning by 2 different pitchers.
So for Pagan to get picked off, it was not a hit and run. It was a straight steal. Oh, first baseman's got to make that play.
It'll be a stolen base for Pagan because he was running. And then the error moves him to third.
First baseman's got to make this play.
Like, probably should have caught the first one too.
I think what happened
was tougher.
Sanchez was trying to throw that ball before he caught it.
So now the infield has to come in again with a 1-1 count on Cora.
So it's all falling apart here on the Marlins. They just,
well, defense was a big problem for them last year. Squeeze play certainly in order with Cora's bunting ability, especially against a lefty. And here it is. But he bunts it foul.
I like it.
And the fans appreciated it too. They're cheering even though it wasn't successful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful time to do it. Right after an error by the pitcher. Pagan doesn't leave too early. Alex does not show it too early. Everything except getting it fair.
Chip Hale talking it over with Pagan. 1-2 now on Cora, who needs to put the ball in play here. And Alex slaps it foul.
I think right here with Castillo up next, if Alex is able to put this ball in the outfield, you got Coughlin in left field, who's a former infielder. Maven's arm is good but erratic. Cody Ross probably has the best arm in right field, but with the speed of Pagan, this is a great time if he gets in the outfield to take a shot. Send that runner.
Chip Hale keeping an eye on Pagan. Slapped. Ramirez with the dive. He'll have to go to first. Off the back Sanchez, but he got back for the out. But a run comes home to make it 6-1. Nice job by Cora putting the ball in play. Good play by Ramirez preventing the hit. And the Mets have scored 4 runs in the 6th inning.
Well, nice play by Ramirez on the dive. Look at Pagan. Pagan runs so well. Very nice. He was on contact. Yeah. He was breaking home. And when you have a 4-run lead, yes, you do that.
Been a rough inning for Gabby Sanchez over at first base, hasn't it? But he made a nice play there to get his toe back to the bag. Otherwise, Cora would have been safe. So now 2 out and nobody on for Castillo, batting right-handed for the first time today.
Well, this is one of the question marks for this Marlin team, and it was last year, Gary. Their bullpen. It's very much up in the air. They're asking a lot of their bullpen, this Marlin club.
Broken back grounder for Ramirez. Takes his time and throws out Castell. He's safe. He's bobbled by Sanchez, and the inning continues.
Good Lord.
The third error of the inning for the Florida Marlins. Boy, Sanchez just having a nightmare at first base in this inning.
Well, let's take a look. That's embarrassing. That's a clank.
Yep, popped out of the glove. He tried to grab it with the bare hand.
That's a clank. And that's like you can't dig a hole deep enough and put enough sod over you.
Assist for the shortstop. Error on the first baseman.
Boy, you're going to have a left-hander face David Wright. David Wright lethal against left. Oh, boy.
He just flat out missed it.
That's give me an eye chart.
Dave Goosh. Doug Goosh. Doug or Dave?
Yeah. Was that how you pronounce his name?
G-W-O-D-S-Z.
Right. The Padres catcher.
Right. 3 errors in the inning, 2 on errant pickoff throws, and now 1 on Sanchez.
Well, I wouldn't leave a left-hander in to face David.
Well, Wright has consistently hit over 400 against left-handers. David having a good day with the bat today. A home run, a walk, and then a searing line drive that was caught. And we mentioned the defense for the Marlins. It's been an ongoing concern. So Santana out of the game, but now 5 runs to the good. That takes a little pressure off the Mets bullpen too.
Oh,
right, with a good hack.
Gosh, I like the way he's swinging the bat. That's the old David. Oh my goodness, good cut, big rip.
Fernando Nieve getting ready to come on for the 7th. 1-2 from Meyer. Ooh. Up and in, 2-2. Now let's see. Already today, Albert Pujols has hit 2 home runs for the Cardinals. Garrett Jones has hit 2 home runs for the Pirates.
Phillies are killing Washington 11-1. That's in the 8th.
Placido Polanco hit a home run. That's what a lopsided game that is. 2-2 to Wright, and David lofts one into shallow left. On comes Coughlin, and he gets there to make the grab. But the Mets take advantage of 3 Florida errors to score 4 runs in the 6th inning. And the new Mets got it started. Jason Bay, Rod Barajas, and then Angel Pagan helps out, and it's 6-1 New York.
Just a beautiful sun-splashed day here at Citi Field, opening day, and the Mets offense going off on that past inning. All started by a Jason Bay triple. They're now up on the Marlins 6-1. And if you're here at Citi Field, you had to have seen the new Mets Hall of Fame, which was unveiled officially today, and they really did a great job. Mets front office officials actually went to Cooperstown to meet with the people who put that together, because there are certain things that have to happen, certain criteria for displays. They have to be climate controlled. They have to be light controlled. The security has to be a certain way. And when they are, they can then borrow artifacts from the Baseball Hall of Fame and from other museums that are up to those same standards. You're seeing some of the footage here, the World Series trophy, the World Series rings. I thought one of the neatest things was Casey Stengel's notes. As manager in 1964, he had notes handwritten on each of the players and their strengths and weaknesses. And then it was cool and scary at the same time, guys, if you didn't get a chance to go in. The original Mr. Met head. And it was just the Met uniform with a basically a paper mache head.
Oh gosh.
Very Hannibal Lecterish, if you would. But this was, they estimate, about 1966 when this head was worn, and the Mets still had it, so it's out there. Just a plethora of great things as Cody Ross grounds out against Fernando Nieve, the new pitcher here. You know, Tom Seaver has his Rookie of the Year. He's got his Cy Young. Buddy Harrelson lent his World Series ring. Ralph Kiner lent his Emmy. It's really worth it. I know, Gary, you had a chance to walk through it today, too, but one of the great new additions to really make Citi Field feel like home.
It's fantastic. The scouting report on Darryl Strawberry is there.
Really?
Uniforms of Mets through the years. And how about Ed Kranepool's high school ring from James Monroe High School?
Wow.
In 1962.
I donated my 88 gold. 87 gold glove. Lorraine Hamilton. Oh my goodness.
That's almost the original Mr. Met. The hands are wrong, though.
It's a second-grade teacher's dream, that paper mache had.
Gabby Sanchez, after a rough inning in the field, takes a strike from Fernando Nieve, who did such a wonderful job for the Mets, filling in as a starter last summer before he blew out his quad in July and joined the parade to the disabled list. And that's ripped toward the left field corner. And Gabby Sanchez has himself an extra base hit.
Boy, he's had an impressive day at the plate.
So Sanchez is 2 for 3, just the 5th hit for the Marlins.
You know, it's interesting, Gary, you mentioned it before that Jerry Manuel was going to let these pitchers show their roles. I think it's very telling, though, that the first person he goes to is Fernando Nieve. Shows what kind of confidence he has. And for you fans at home, made those 7 starts, as Gary said, but of his 60 appearances in the big leagues, 42 of them have been out of the bullpen. So no stranger to Fernando.
Well, it's a good spot to break him in, too, at a 5-run lead.
Now Mike Lamb will be the pinch hitter for the Marlins. Lamb was spent last year in the Mets farm system in Buffalo. And imagine being at Buffalo, a veteran player like Mike Lamb, all year last year, played 119 games, and with all the injuries the Mets had, never got called up.
Yeah, he had to feel like the invisible man down there. Right? Hey, guys, you guys are struggling. You need me up there.
He was a power guy, pull hitter.
He's a .277 lifetime major league hitter. Mike Lamb now 34 years old. Had some really good years in Houston, playing quite a bit at third base. Tim Wood is up now in the Florida bullpen. Nieve working in back of Santana, who went 6 innings, allowed a run on 4 hits. And Lamb cues one that goes foul. Tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. get continued coverage of today's Mets-Marlins game, plus interviews, highlights, and recaps of everything New York sports on Geico Sports Night tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. only on SNY. See Roy Halladay mentioned there. Phillies up 11-1 in the 8th inning in Washington.
Halladay era. Whenever I see era, I always think of ERA for us that are in this business. But yeah, I guess it is the era. Sanchez looks like he has to give something to the third base coach, David Wright.
Jeez.
Being the emissary.
Very
plastic cup.
Gentlemanly there. And make the third baseman go get it. That's the enemy.
Someone else's cup.
Two and 1 to Lamb. And he inside outs one foul. 2-2.
Am I too harsh?
Well, I think that you are trying to usher back in a different era in baseball when things were a little less friendly.
Yes. I mean, you could be friendly, but when the game was on, you know, it was the enemy, and don't do any favors.
Two and 2 to Lamb. Lifted to left center, and Matthews easing over. That's the second out of the inning, and Sanchez back to second. You know when it turned for me officially, the whole fraternization
the line
thing?
of demarcation?
It was 1998, the McGuire-Sosa thing.
Oh, yeah.
When McGuire hits the home run and gets the hugs from Sosa at a time when the Cubs are in a race to try and get to the postseason, and you're congratulating your opponent for hitting home runs.
Yes.
To me, that's where the whole fraternization thing jumped the shark.
Well, remember, Mark Grace also shook his hand as he's running past first base. So
that's why he missed the bag.
That's
also when the All-Star game became not so important to me, when Barry Bonds hit the home run that was robbed. He was robbed and he wouldn't
tackle Torrey Hunter.
Yes, he bear hugged him. And that to me was when I saw that this is, you know, the All-Star game was prideful.
Yeah.
You were representing the National League. You did not want to have the American League beat you. I played in 5, I think. We lost 1, won the first 4. I felt terrible when we lost the American League that year.
And what have we got here? Wally Bell walking out toward Fernando Nieve, and I think they said that he went to his mouth.
Yep.
So they're going to call a ball. You can't go to your mouth while you're on the dirt on the mound. You have to walk off onto the grass. And so that makes it a 2-0 count to Conklin. By the way, they just showed a shot of us here in the booth, and if you're wondering, that lovely lady sitting behind us is Carrie, our stage manager. And she'll be here all season, and she'll be right in that shot whenever they, take a picture of us in the booth. So, Carrie, we have a little more room this year, so Carrie got to be invited into our booth.
They gave us a little more space to the back. They backed the wall up. Carrie can join us now, and it's always nice to see a pretty face. I'll never say no to that.
Well, it's interesting. They're having a long conversation over this now with Wally Bell and Jerry Manuel. And obviously, Nieve did not think he went to his mouth, and Jerry's letting Wally Bell know that.
No, there he is. Always on the grass. Oh.
Yeah,
well,
I don't think
that was the only time that he went to his mouth, then that's a bad call.
Yes, it is.
So now Nieve has to regather himself.
There it is. He went to the mouth on the grass.
He can't be then, though, because if he had seen that, he would have called it straight away.
Right.
It's got to be something a little later.
No, I think the second base umpire called it as Coghlan fouls it back 2-1. I think the second base umpire, Jeff Nelson, got the attention of Wally Bell. So maybe his perspective was off because he had the mound between him and the pitcher as he was walking back up. See, that's where Nelson called it.
Oh, Mr. Jeff.
Well, you missed it.
Just concentrate on
simple as that.
Concentrate on second base.
There you go.
Stay within yourself. 2-1 to Coghlan, and he fouls it away.
Well, not getting invited to that barbecue for the umpires after this season again.
Isanori Takahashi, the lefty, staying busy, although it's nothing but right-hand hitters coming up after Coghlan. Although Takahashi is not really a lefty specialist, it's something we talked about a lot this spring. He's actually more effective against right-handers. 2-2, and that breaking ball misses badly. 3-2 to Coghlan.
It's interesting, right, to watch how the speed of the game changes when you take out Santana, who is purposeful, working quickly, throwing strikes, and it has shifted here with Fernando coming in. Game has kind of slowed down.
3-2, and he uses an emergency hack to keep the at bat alive. Got a little something going in Arlington. Sean Markham for the Toronto Blue Jays as a no-hitter through 6 innings.
Wow. He's become their #1 with the trade of Roy Halladay. They got some good young arms, by the way, in Toronto.
And that's a Texas lineup. Texas has always been an offensive powerhouse.
Ian Kinsler, though, on the disabled list. That puts a little crimp in their batting order. Well, things are not projected to go well for Toronto this year in a stacked division where, you know, the Rays are better, where the Orioles are better, and not to mention, you know, the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But that would be a nice way to start the season. It's only been one opening day no-hitter, and that was by Bob Feller. 3-2 to Coghlan. Struck him out.
Good pitch.
Fernando Nieve gets through the 7th, works around the double by Gabby Sanchez. 7th inning stretch time, 6-1 Mets. Lady Liberty out in the harbor on a perfect spring afternoon in New York, and it's gone just about perfectly for the Mets as well, as they lead the Marlins 6-1 heading to the bottom of the 7th. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Met games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're in the car, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Day off tomorrow, and then night games with the Marlins Wednesday and Thursday. And then the Nats are in for 3 games over the weekend before the Mets make their first road trip of the year to Colorado and St. Louis. Let's answer your AT&T trivia question. We asked which 2 players hold the Mets franchise record for most starts on opening day. We had no idea. Tom Seaver and Bud Harrelson, the old roommates.
We had more idea than we thought.
Buddy started every opening day from 1967 through 77.
Wow.
Seaver started every opening day 1968 through 77, but then he also came back and pitched opening day in 1983.
You know, I remember that start that he had in 1983. I was down in the minor leagues, and we all stopped that day to watch him pitch that first inning. And the thing I always took from it is he walked in from the bullpen on the field, which he had never done before, to a resounding ovation, of course.
Tim Wood comes out of the bullpen. He'll be the 4th pitcher of the afternoon for the Florida Marlins.
Well, it's the first time he's made an opening day roster, Mr. Wood.
Well, didn't he get sent down? He took the place of
Sanchez. Yeah, that's what happened, is that he was going to open the season in New Orleans, but the injury to Sanchez allows him to make the team.
Brian Sanchez.
Sorry,
one of the 3 Sanchez's that the Marlins have. They've got Anibal Sanchez, who the Mets will not see in this series, and of course Gabby Sanchez, the first baseman. But Brian Sanchez suffered a groin injury in his last spring training appearance, sending him to the disabled list. Mike Jacobs 0 for 3 in his return to the Mets. 2 strikeouts and a pop-up. It'll be Jacobs, then Jason Bay and Gary Matthews for the Mets in the bottom of the 7th. Josh Johnson went 5 innings plus, allowed 4 runs and 5 hits. If the Mets hold the lead, they will have beaten Josh Johnson for the first time ever. Tomorrow the Mets face Ricky Nolasco, who pitched as well as anybody in the major leagues this spring. Broken bat grounder, and Wood off the mound takes it himself. 1 away. How many splinters do you think came out of that bat?
Wow. Bat went right over the head of Wood as he was going to first base.
Isn't that the second bat that Jacobs has shattered? Fastball running in. Running away.
Yeah, that's that classic sinking kind of spin that you have on the fastball by Wood. He's got a great arm.
Here's Jason Bay, who's had himself a fine Mets debut. Singled back in the 1st and then hit a triple to left center in the 6th. That started a 4-run Mets uprising. Bay, who wears number 44 in tribute to Eric Davis. Remember, he wore number 38 when he was with the Pirates, and when he went to Boston, they said, well, you can't have 38. We got this guy named Schilling.
Yeah, that's right.
So they asked him what he wanted among the available numbers, and he said, well, I grew up a big Eric Davis fan, so give me 44, and he has kept that now with the Mets.
Am I getting old? Every time I hear a 44, I think of McCovey, Aaron.
Well, that's probably why Eric Davis wore 44 for those guys. But that, that's how things get passed down through the generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the funny thing is, Jason Bay grew up in British Columbia, and the games they got on TV there were the Blue Jays because they were the Canadian team, and the Mariners because they were close to Seattle. But he said he never really took to those teams. He said he rooted for the Blue Jays a little bit because it was kind of a national thing. Ramirez with a nice backhand play. Can he get him? He does. Beautifully done by Hanley Ramirez to get Jason Bay for the second out.
Boy, I don't know. Bay is deceptively quick. Nice play by Ramirez. Up hop on the backhand. And again, no stretch from Sanchez. Look at that. Come on, it's a close play. He got him. Get out there and get that ball.
I think right now, Keith, after the day he's having, he's just happy to catch it.
He came in with a reputation as a decent first baseman. We obviously haven't seen that today.
He looks nervous on the defensive side.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Gary Matthews Jr., who's 1 for 2 and a walk and has scored a run. Anyway, Bay said he was, he rooted for the Blue Jays because you're supposed to do that as a Canadian, right? But he said it was Eric Davis who really caught his eye.
Wow. Well, he caught our eye when we were playing against him.
Out to left field, chasing Coughlin back, going back. It's over his head and off the wall. Wow. Matthews racing to second, and he's in with an opposite field double. And that ball completely befuddled Chris Coughlin.
Dare I say, a ball carrying in Citi Field.
Well, the wind's blowing out. We've been saying it all day, and I think that's the first ball we've seen that has gotten a boost from the wind.
Those are the flags up on top of the stadium that are over the left field line, behind the left field fence. So that ball really carried. I didn't think he hit it that well.
It's 3/4 up the outfield wall.
Went out. Some ballparks, that's a home run.
Yeah. Nice start for Matthews. 2 for 4 with a walk and a run scored.
Here's Frank Core, and he takes ball 1.
2 for 3, excuse me.
Jeff is 0 for 1. He's also walked and driven on a run with a sacrifice fly. Oh, all the new Mets, Barajas, Bay, and Matthews have 2 hits in this game. Nice way to welcome yourself to the big town. Francora pops one up. Ramirez out. Maben in and drops for a base hit. Matthews scores. Nobody's covering second, and Francora walks in safely. And it's 7-1 New York. A nightmare defensive game for the Florida Marlins.
Well, if we've seen one thing and one weakness in Ramirez's game, and it's not many, is he doesn't go back well in pop-ups, Ronnie. He doesn't bust out. You can turn your back to the ball, find out where it is, and then bust as fast as you can out there, then pick it up again.
And whose responsibility is it there to cover second base?
Absolutely the pitcher's. He needs to be standing on that second base bag waiting for the throw. Not a good play by Wood.
What about the first baseman?
Well, first baseman can definitely trail,
but he's got to hang around the bag in case he makes the wide turn. You can get him. It's the pitcher's job.
So a gift run for the Mets, and now Barajas takes a strike.
No, he doesn't have to cover home, right, Ronnie? It's a pop-up.
Yeah, he's just he's an excitable boy running around in the field there. He needs to be at second base.
Well, it's a double for Francora. Somehow. Barajas already has a single and a double. Hey, the more Warren Zevon references you can get in a broadcast, we're all in favor.
There was no roast beef, there was no chest, so we're all set.
Next thing you know, you'll be drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's.
That's right.
Oh. With the umbrella.
And your hair will be perfect.
With the little umbrella thing in your drink.
You know, we make light of it, but in this ballpark with this huge outfield, so important for the infielders, middle infielders, to get out there in the outfield. You're going to have a lot of plays on this field.
But I thought also Maben was tentative on that ball, and he has been all day, the center fielder.
In the sun, you can see the shadows. The sun is not a factor here. The sun, you can see his shadow going this way. So the sun is over the left field line, so it shouldn't be a factor.
0-2 to Barajas. That's now with 7 runs and 9 hits and a couple of gifts. Now that one fooled Barajas. Wood has his first strikeout and the inning is over. But a couple of 2-out doubles produce a run and make it 7-1 New York.
Cardinals and Reds in Cincinnati, top of the 7th. Albert Pujols gets a hold of this one off Mike Lincoln. His second homer of the game. Right now, 6-4 Cardinals, bottom of the 8th inning. Let's go back out to Citi Field.
All right, Jonas, and in Texas, Sean Markham not only no longer has a no-hitter, he no longer has the lead as the Rangers have tied up the Blue Jays 3-3. Fernando Nieve goes out for his second inning of relief. There you see the score from Texas.
Burley got that start for Chicago. He's throwing a gem. 5-0 White Sox over the Indians.
3 hits in 6 innings for Burley. Paul Konerko a home run. Fernando Tatis comes on for defense at first base, replacing Mike Jacobs as Nieve starts his second inning, taking on Cameron Maben, who's thrilled to see Santana out of the game. 3 at bats, 3 strikeouts, all on changeups against Santana for Mr. Maben. So trying to avoid the golden sombrero as he takes on Nieve in the 8th. And a slider for a strike. 0-2.
That's a good slider by Fernando. You know, when he's not pitching out of the bullpen, to see Feliciano, the left-hander, and Sean Green, the right-hander, Nieve can really become a 2-pitch pitcher. That good fastball and good slider.
Gets it on the hands of Maben and he fouls it off. Well, you know, one thing about Nieve that we saw when he was starting is he'd come in and throw strikes.
Yeah.
And on a staff last year that was often strike starved, it was quite a revelation.
Well, it's aggressive always works when you're coming out of the bullpen. Throwing strikes, and Nieve does that.
And that just missed.
Well, the 6-run lead, 5-run, 6-run lead when he came in, you got to throw strikes.
Yeah. Fernando's now 27 years old. And he got the first crack. Maben finally makes contact, but Cora throws him out. 1 away. We mentioned earlier you got K-Rod and Feliciano. Those are the givens in the bullpen, and then you've got 5 guys. There were about 10 candidates for those 5 spots, but it was Takahashi, Green, Igarashi, Mejia, and Nieve who won them. And Jerry Manuel says he'll roll them all out there and see what happens.
Well, I think what you have, Sean Green, 2 outings ago, struck out the side on 11 pitches. That probably got him on the team. The Japanese right-hander and left-hander, Igarashi and Takahashi, I think the unfamiliarity in the league is going to help them at least the first time through.
And then how do you use Mejia? If Jerry says he doesn't want to put Mejia in high leverage situations, would you bring him in today to pitch the 9th inning?
Could be. Perfect kind of game to bring in Henry.
On the other hand, you've got K-Rod, who has had such turmoil in his life the last few days. Grounded out to third, barehanded by Wright. But he can't get Hanley Ramirez, and it sails by Tatis. And Ramirez will take second. Castillo will not make a throw. David Wright making that barehand play, and Tatis couldn't come up with it. It'll be an infield hit and then an error.
Error will be charged to Wright on the throw. Nice play barehanded by David. We've seen that over the years.
You know, that's one of those plays, sorry Keith, that nice bare hand, but I think if Fernando had felt the runner, Ramirez, he's going to be safe. Nice time to come off the bag and just block it, save your error for your third baseman.
Ronnie, did you play first base when you were a kid?
I know, but I watched this guy. It was pretty good over there.
It was excellent.
He was a shortstop, you know that.
You know you can't get the runner. Ronnie's one jump ahead of me here today. You're right. Come off the bag. You got a big lead. Don't let the runner advance.
So now Cantu with a runner at second and 1 out. Cantu at an RBI double, driving in the only Marlin run of the day in the 6th. I was going to say with K-Rod, he's had such turmoil in his life. The car accident down in Venezuela that injured 2 of his brothers. He just got back yesterday. You got an off day tomorrow. Do you want to get Francisco into the game, or are you better off just giving him a couple of days off to let him clear his head?
I think there's a few reasons you want to get him into the game. One is that he's been away from the team, so obviously probably not throwing. He needs to get in the game. Secondly, we've already seen from Rodriguez, the more he pitches, the more effective he is. And you mentioned it, the off day. All 3 of those factors, I think, are very important for K-Rod to get in the game. Now, I think the only way he wouldn't maybe is that he's told Jerry that he could use a day to kind of just get his legs back under him after all that flying.
If you missed the story yesterday, his brother Eric was driving. His brother Leandro was in one of the passenger seats. 5 people in a vehicle driving in a desolate area of Venezuela, and his brother fell asleep. The car rolled over, and the driver Eric was not terribly injured. It was more Leandro who had suffered multiple fractures, who's in really rough condition, although not life-threatening down in Venezuela. And it was awfully tough for Frankie to come back and leave his family, but you know, he realized what his obligation was here.
All of our best wishes to the Rodriguez family.
Cantu lifts one out to deep right center, but plenty of room out there for Matthews, battling the wind, and he comes up with it. Tagging at second, Ramirez goes over to third. Boy, what a rough day for the outfielders. And Gary Matthews has certainly experienced that, but he's able to make the play.
Little baptism under fire here. He thought he had it, and that wind is tricky. It's always been tricky, even the old Shea. These winds around here swirl. And look at him, he knows.
These guys thought they had left the sun and wind behind them in Florida.
He's just saying, I can't take anything for granted out here.
So 2 out, Ramirez at third, and Dan Uglo the batter. Mets today trying to win for the 32nd time in their last 41 opening day games. One of the reasons they've been so good has been that they've gotten great starting pitching on opening day. If you include today with Santana, the last 5 years, Mets starting pitchers on opening day have given up a total of 7 runs. Wow. That's 2 starts by Glavine and 3 by Santana. Always nice when you can go to your ace. For Jerry, it's what happens after that that's going to hold the key to the season. 1-1 to Ugla. There's a strike. 1-2. Ramirez at third and 2 down. 1-2 from Nieve.
Oh, good pitch.
He wastes away the slider.
83 miles an hour. Took a little something off.
He's had a good one today. And Uggla takes it for a call third strike. Got the slider over the outside corner. Second strikeout for Nieve. He throws 2 scoreless, and the Mets lead 7-1. 5:30 p.m. Brian Custer and Brandon Tierney will definitely have their opinions on today's game as they host the Hot 9 New York sports stories of the day in the Wheelhouse, presented by Pepsi, weekdays at 5:30 only on SNY. Well, there's the answer to our question. Francisco Rodriguez is up in the Mets bullpen and getting ready to pitch the ninth. Meanwhile, Frank Catalanato's been announced into the game as a pinch hitter, and so Freddie Gonzalez takes the ball from Tim Wood and will bring on his situational lefty, Reniel Pinto, to start this bottom of the 8th inning. And we'll see whether the Long Island native Catalanato gets to swing the bat or whether the Mets will switch up. Mets lead 7-1. We'll be right back. 27-year-old Reniel Pinto will come on to pitch for the Marlins.
One of that unsung bullpen for the Marlins last season. He again, like Danny Meyer, set all of his career highs last season.
Frank Catalanato making his Mets debut. 35 years of age, played last year in Milwaukee, but most of his career in the American League. Born, raised, and still lives in Smithtown on Long Island, and thrilled to be playing for his hometown team.
Boy, so you've just been around, and all of a sudden, veteran, and you come back and play where you grew up. Fantastic.
Now, Catalanato wore number 2 all during spring training, but this morning, all of a sudden, he was wearing number 27, which Nelson Figueroa had been wearing during the spring. That was one of the interesting cuts on the last day. It looked like Figueroa was going to make the team, but in the end, I guess that they decided 2 long men in the bullpen were enough with Takahashi and Nieve. Although Nieve has been used in the late innings today.
And Nelson, who was a consummate professional and just a wonderful guy, will miss him. And his plans were, if he didn't make the ball club, that he was going to try to hook up in Japan.
Yep.
And I think that'll be a good thing for him. It'll make good salary.
Still need to see whether he gets claimed on waivers by another team, which is possible. That period has not yet expired. But Catalanato, now wearing number 27, a terrific pinch hitter. Lifetime 277 as a pinch hitter, and that's a good number.
Yes. Other than probably Hojo and David Wright and Johan Santana, probably got the biggest applause from the crowd today.
Jason Bay got a pretty good one too.
Oh, he did. You're right.
Catalanato down swinging. Foul tips it into Polino's mitt. And that's the first out of the inning. Wednesday, the Mets give John Maine his first start of the 2010 season as they continue their series against the Marlins here at Citi Field. Mets Marlins coverage begins with Subway pregame Wednesday at 6:30 only on SNY. That's when it's no longer opening day, it's just baseball. Maine against Ricky Nolasco Wednesday night, and the lefties Jonathan Neese and Nate Robertson on Thursday night. There's John looking for a bounce back year after an injury plagued last 2 seasons, really. Must be a mistake.
Nice.
Well, number 3 got that number right. That lucky 13.
You betcha. Cora is 0 for 3 on opening day, but he's been hit by a pitch, and he's also driven on a run with a ground out.
Look at that, Gary. You're big.
They're all over the place. Must be a family. There you go. Not my family.
Wow.
These Cohens are everywhere, you know.
Are those your passes?
Hey, open up the phone book. Out to right field, and battling the sun is Ross, but he makes the catch for the second out. Boy, every fly ball's an adventure today.
Well, he thought he had it. Oops, I better go right here, and quickly. Cody with that tender calf.
Now Luis Castillo, who is 0 for 3, but he's also walked, stolen a base, and scored a run. Mets with 9 hits, the Marlins with 6. Mets took the lead in the first on David Wright's home run, and they have not been headed. See if David gets another crack, if Castillo can get on. But do you know that last year, Wright hit the home run to right field today? Last year, the Mets had 2 opposite field home runs at Citi Field the entire season. David Wright had 1, and Angel Pagan had an inside the park home run to the opposite field, and that was it. 81 home games, 1 opposite field home run out of the ballpark, and Wright's already matched that today.
A portent,
perhaps. I think spring training was a portent for David. He just looked like a different hitter, and he's translated that already today into action. 2-2 to Castillo. Well, I think we all agreed going into this season that, especially when Beltran and Reyes get back, that offense is not going to be the problem for this team. And today, with Santana starting and Nieve giving 2 strong innings of relief, pitching hasn't been a problem either. Castillo shoots one out to Uggla, who had him played perfectly. And so Reño Pinto throws himself a 1-2-3 inning, and Frankie Rodriguez will come on and try and finish matters in the 9th. 7-1 New York. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Mitsubishi. And by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Well, Francisco Rodriguez makes his season debut after returning to the ball club yesterday following his trip to Venezuela to be with his 2 ailing brothers following a serious automobile accident.
229 careers, 229 saves his last 5 seasons, 35 with the Mets last season when he made his 4th All-Star team.
A non-save situation for him here with a 7-1 lead. Ronnie Paulino is 3/8 in his hand. 3 fly balls to center field on the afternoon.
And Frankie just had a terrific spring. Really cruised through it and looked terrific.
Trying to finish it off for Johan Santana, who went the first 6, allowed a run on 4 hits, 2 walks and 5 strikeouts. 2 strong innings for Fernando Nieve. Allowed no runs and 2 hits. 1-1 to Paulino with Cody Ross and Gabby Sanchez to follow here in the 9th. Mets trying to win on opening day for the 5th straight year and the 32nd time in the last 41 years. It's an amazing, unexplainable, 4-decade-long domination of their opening day game. And that's been in good years and in bad years, and it really hasn't mattered. They just own opening day. 2-1 to Paulino. Grounded out to Alex Cora. And that's the first down of the 9th. Right now, let's check in with Chris Carlin, who's out on the plaza to preview what's coming up on the postgame show.
All right, Garrett, well, coming up on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live, we will, of course, hear from the manager, Jerry Manuel, on a positive win today to start the year. Plus, Johan Santana and Bobby O will tell you about one of the unsung heroes today. Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live in just moments.
All right, thanks, Chris. We'll be looking forward to Lincoln Mercury postgame live all season long right here on SNY after every Mets game, whether it's on SNY or not. Cody Ross, the batter. Ross is 0 for 3. Frankie Rodriguez got a late start to spring training this year because of a battle with pink eye, which lasted far longer than anybody expected. Forced him to abandon his contact lenses and go back to the goggles that he wore with the Angels. Wind has been blowing all afternoon, and papers keep coming free. Ron Barajas just did a little housekeeping. See the shadows extending from the third base line. And Ross takes a strike. Good movement on that fastball.
Good movement, and Wally Bell, the home plate umpire, has had a nice strike zone today. Very consistent.
Boy, I just got something stuck in my throat here, like a little pollen or something.
I was worried about you. I was going to 911.
You weren't even snacking.
No.
Ross gets under one in foul ground. David Wright chasing it with the wind and can't get to it. Wow. every ball that goes in the air is getting boosted 20 and 30 feet.
And it didn't play like this last year, if you recall, early in the season.
I think today is really an aberration. You got the wind coming out of the south, which it normally doesn't do this time of year. And anything that gets above the rim of the stadium is just getting pushed severely out toward left field. K-Rod ahead 1-2. Two and two to Ross. It's like we're at Candlestick Park.
Candlestick, Wrigley. This kind of wins.
Not quite. We'd be freezing.
That's right.
Two and two to Cody Ross. Popped it up into shallow center. Matthews staying with it. Two-handed grab. 2 out.
Well,
Gary Matthews, are you enjoying your first day at Citi Field?
well, I am 1 out away from driving back to Sag Harbor in some serious rush hour traffic.
You don't have the police escort out there?
I'm not complaining. I haven't got any. My wife didn't come, and I've got no Hove Lane privileges.
Well, you will have tomorrow to recuperate. Ronnie and I will be heading to the Mets welcome home dinner in the city tonight. You're invited to come, by the way.
You can enjoy that. Are you emceeing?
We are.
Good.
Gabby Sanchez 2 for 3. The Marlins down to their final out, and he takes a strike. An up and down day for Sanchez. Good with the bat, not so good with the glove. K-Rod trying to put a bow on this one. And Sanchez stopped the swing in time to the satisfaction of Laz Diaz. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 years ago, Francisco Rodriguez set a major league record with 62 saves. Last year, in far fewer opportunities, he had 35. Wes Helms would be next if the Marlins can keep it alive. And it's fouled away, and now the Marlins are down to their final strike. And that'll get the crowd to its feet here at Citi Field. Two now to Sanchez. In the air to center field. It's been a busy day for Matthews as he retreats, and the ball game is over. Like clockwork, another opening day win for the New York Mets.
Well, on the pitching side, you have to love what you got today. Your ace, 6 strong innings, only giving up a run. Beautiful work by Fernando Nieve, bridging that to get the ball to K-Rod in the 1-2-3 inning for Francisco Rodriguez.
Well, in the offensive side, great contributions from the new players. Jason Bay 2 for 4 with a run and a triple. Gary Matthews Jr. 2 for 3 with 2 runs. Rod Barajas 2 for 4 with an RBI double. Pagan off the bench with a very clutch pinch hit. So it's a very good day all the way around for the New York Metropolitan.
32 opening day wins in the last 41 years, including the last 5 in a row. The first day on the calendar, no problem for the New York Mets. As K-Rod comes back from family tragedy and gets his first appearance under his belt to finish it off for Johan Santana, who wins on opening day as a Met for the 3rd straight season. And the Mets get a David Wright first-inning home run to provide enough offense to carry him through the entire day. They'll try and make it 2 for 2 against the Marlins on Wednesday night with John Maine on the mound against Ricky Nolasco. Mets win it 7-1 on opening day at Citi Field. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Perfect on the field as well. Johan Santana did his job, and so did the offense. Now for Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, Kevin Burkhardt, and our entire crew, I'm Gary Cohen, sending you off to Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. Let's join Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda.
From weather to results, just exactly as the Mets would have drawn it up today as they come away with the victory 7-1 over the Marlins on opening day. Welcome, everybody. Outside the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, Chris Carlin, Bobby O. It is Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. Johan Santana, very solid. Plenty of offense today. We've got a lot to cover during Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live today, including hearing from both Mr. Santana and the manager, Jerry Manuel, on opening up the season with a win. But let's start with Johan. And Bobby, today it looked like vintage Johan thanks to the changeup.
Thanks to the changeup, I love to see the action on it. The velocity was back down to where it does fall out of the zone. You know, he could tell people was coming, and he varies the speed on it. But what he also did was that fastball. He had 90 pitches. He was still throwing 90+ miles an hour. That tells me he feels pretty good, and he's on his way to a big year, I think.
And there was not a ton of separation all day long in it, but he got great separation when he needed to. And boy, he did not make Cameron Maben look very good at all today.
No, no, one of those was 76 miles an hour. So that was one of those ones where hey, here's another changeup. You know when I know I'm going to throw it, but I'm going to take this much more off it, and there's nothing you can do. That's just taking candy from a baby right here.
And Maben did not look very good at the plate today against Santana. Frankly, at times looked like he just did not have a shot at all. Santana getting the job done with that changeup today. But at the same time, maybe the unsung hero, Rod Barajas behind the plate. And we talked during Subway Pregame Live earlier tonight, or earlier this afternoon, I should say, that you were going to see a major difference behind the plate this season with both Rod Barajas and Henry Blanco.
I just thought he called a spectacular game. I thought they worked well together. I thought he took advantage of Santana's things that were working for him today, taking advantage of a team that was pressing a little bit, and he used it against him. Set a great target. This right here, that just makes me so happy. I'm very happy. Look at that target. He nails the target. That's a beautiful early target. Even if he doesn't swing, he's probably going to get that call because he doesn't move. Those are the type of things that I think are going to add up. When you do that 400 or 500 times with a whole staff, by the end of the year, it's going to make a difference. Being able to use both sides of the plate, anticipate what guys are doing. Suppose he's looking out over, well, we're going to give you that. And that is using both sides of the plate. That's thinking ahead. And that is, you've got your pitcher believing in what those fingers you're throwing down. You're not just throwing them down waiting to hit. You're throwing down because you're with me that day.
And in Johan's case, in his first 2 years here in New York, there have been plenty of times where he's going out there and throwing a gem, but they just haven't been able to score enough runs for him. A little bit different today. Nice tack-on runs.
Nice tack-on runs. They broke, you know, that lead-off triple by Bay set the whole thing up. Now, they pressed on him after that. They made 3 errors. They did help. But I thought one of the most impressive things today was I saw attack swings, yet there was patience. They had some key walks. Matthews had a big walk in that inning, and I know walks aren't sexy, but they added to this being a breakout inning. They added to this being an inning to where they busted this game wide open, and that had to do with attack swings, yet not overswings.
And part of that inning, a big part of it, were a couple of the new guys. We saw the Jason Bay triple there. Rod Barajas had 2 hits, including that big double there. Even Gary Matthews Jr. got in on the act. The new guys making an early impact.
Yes, absolutely, and that's exactly what you want to do when you are a new guy, because now all of a sudden you're a little more relaxed. Guys don't know what to expect coming in here. You're opening here at Citi Field, which is spectacular. They got 40,000 people. You're coming off of a year when everybody wants to forget it. There's no better way to move forward than to put out a team effort like they had today.
And you see a group behind us that has already been chanting, "Let's go Mets." And look, we know this is a crowd that has been dying to get some positivity going. And you set an early tone by getting a win. Look, it's one win, it's opening day, but at the same time, you can hear them. I think that kind of speaks for itself. Absolutely. This crowd, this fan base is definitely dying to get something going.
This is what they want. Now, it's one win, yes, but this win is worth about 50 because these people are happy. If it had been a loss, these people are all on the 7 train heading home going, oh boy, we're in for a long year. Does this mean they're going to have a great year? I don't know, but I saw a lot of good things today. I really did.
We are just getting started on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. We are going to hear from the manager, Jerry Manuel, on opening up the season with the win. We are also going to hear from Mr. Santana as well. Jason Bay, a big part of the offense today for the Mets as they come away with the 7-1 win on opening day. A lot more to do on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live after the 7-1 win for the Mets over the Florida Marlins on opening day here at Citi Field. Right now, we're going to head inside and hear from the manager, Jerry Manuel. It is brought to you, as always, by Citi.
Jerry, I know it was only the spring, but Johan didn't really seem to find his groove in the spring. And so what did you see from him differently that got back to being Johan?
Well, I think for him, his last side session with Dan Worthen and Randy Neiman, I think he came out of that feeling very, very confident and comfortable that he was where he wanted to be. So, and he proved that today. So that was good to see.
Yeah, David, so much was talked about in the offseason about him rebounding, and for him to have his first at bat and do what he did. What was going through your mind when you saw that ball flying out of the park?
Well, I was excited for him, obviously. I think, again, he and Howard has done some good work all winter, and that paid off for him today. He also hit a line drive to third base, which is huge, got a big walk for us. That's extremely important to have him in that position in the lineup in that third hole and swinging the bat as he did today. That was very big for us.
Yeah, Bruce over here.
Jerry, what was it like just getting out of the gate this way today?
Well, I mean, we out the gate, but we haven't gone anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So we got to, we got to continue to play good baseball. And I thought Fernando Nieve did a good job. I think that's huge for us, for our bullpen to come in and give up no runs. I mean, if we can get into that type of mode, I think it gives, breeds confidence throughout the team. If we can get a lead, we feel very confident and comfortable that we can hold it. So I thought that was a real big couple innings that he gave us today.
Anthony over here.
Jerry, when Santana was coming out, it looked like Takahashi and Mejia up. Is that correct?
Mejia, no.
Just Nieve and Takahashi.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, how confident were you? It's the first chance with maybe perhaps a smaller lead going into the 7th inning. I mean, this was like the roll of the dice of the bullpen. It didn't happen, but how confident were you if you had a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead in those guys?
Well, I felt pretty good with him. I think Fernando had some success against Florida in spring training. I mean, that was our only yardstick we could measure what would possibly happen, but I didn't see the good at-bats. And I think when he comes out and mixes his pitches right at the beginning, it's a big plus for him. And he was able to do that and throw those breaking balls for strikes. It was very huge for us. So it was one of those situations where we go until something happens and then we're ready if it does happen. And that's how we felt about it.
Kevin over here.
Jared, looked like tough conditions out there. Do you think Gary Matthews Jr. got a good introduction to playing Citi Field?
Yeah. I thought he did an excellent job out there today. He called some people off. played in both gaps. He did a great job. I mean, had some good at bats. So it was a good start for him as well. I think he's very, very excited about trying to prove that he's a guy that plays at a high level, and he played at that level today.
Brian, just how much stock do you put into the way a team plays on opening day? I mean, do you look at it as an indicator of things to come, or no more so than the next game?
Well, I think what's important is during the time that you're trying to put pieces in place, you win games. If you can win games during that time, and once you get them in place, you feel very confident every day coming to the ballpark that, hey, we got a real good chance of winning. So we're, by no stretch of the imagination, on that right now, because we still got some things that we have to figure out. And while we figure them out, if we can win games, then the better for us.
Jerry, how encouraged are you? The Marlins here. The Marlins hanging around 2-1, timely hits come through, the runs come home. Are you encouraged by that, and did you see that during the spring ball?
Well, what I saw during the spring ball was that there were a number of times late in the game that, regardless of the score, other than maybe the last day, we were able to get at least a tying run to the plate. So we were always, it appeared, a hit away from tying the game or going ahead. So that was indicative that we played all the outs. We played all the outs, and that's big for you. You got to play all 27, and I thought we were able to do some of that in the spring.
Mike, over here.
Jerry, I'm sure you're delighted to have won the game, but beyond that, how important was it for you to have this team come out on this field and just kind of put, whatever, one game, whatever distance between what happened last year and now? I mean, obviously you guys wanted to embrace the newness of opening day. But.
Yeah, I thought, again, I don't know if it would have affected the psyche of the group of men that we have now. I feel very confident that this group of men, they're mentally tough. So that's why I continue to say in spring that despite some of the adversity that we might face, I still think these guys are capable of overcoming it as a unit because they seem to like each other.
Jay, over here.
With your other questions about your rotation, how essential is it that you get 30 starts from Johan this year, and how confident are you that you will?
Well, I feel very confident with that, and I also feel that he sets the tone for the other young starters that we have, and I think hopefully they'll feed off of that. And I feel very confident that John Maine, Jonathan Deese, Mike Pelfrey, and Oliver Perez will pitch well. I feel very good about that. I think, again, we're trying to get out and figure some things out and win at the same time. But those guys know that they are going to be called upon to do very well. And that's what we're hoping for.
Marty?
If you allow one more comparison to last year, this was relatively or almost mistake-free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
Just maybe a guy got doubled off or something, but nothing bad. But this is the way I think the improvement.
Right.
See it.
Yes. This is this is the type of baseball that we have to play day in and day out. We cannot afford to have any lapses in those types of things. We got to catch the ball. We got to get the timely hits right now, and we got to play consistent for a long period of time. And it all begins with the starting pitching. And if we get that, I think it gives us a good opportunity.
Dave?
Jerry, you mentioned it kind of changing attitude in the psyche with this team. Do you think the fact that the new guys had big contributions today is what helps turn the page? Bay,
no
Matthews,
question.
even Barajas too?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I think the fact that they played well and performed well was very, very huge for us. I mean, they came in with the idea or the expectations that, man, I can do something here and really have some tremendous exposure. So I was very pleased with the way the acquisitions or the additions that we added played today.
Andy, then Ian, and Johan's ready after that. Okay, guys.
Jerry, how much do you expect to tinker with the lineup over the next couple games? For example, getting Tejada in potentially. You still like Jacobs to clean up?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay the way we were today, at least for the next game. And then when we face the lefty, I will try to give probably Tatis and Tejada a shot. I'd like to get everybody involved in the season this first week. And if I could do that, I'd kind of feel confident and comfortable that I can expect some good things from them.
Jerry, just given everything that David endured last year with the drop-off in power and the concussion and so forth, just what do you think that first at-bat will do for him mentally as you go forward?
Well, I think the fact that he hit it out of right field against a power-throwing right-handed pitcher. And, again, the other line out to third base, all indicative of the type of hitter that he can be. He's not just a one-way guy. He can hit the ball from line to line and with power. So I look for him to again have a big year. I think some people are going to challenge him, and I think he's going to respond.
Last question for
Jerry, you said that you have confidence in your other four starters besides Johan. I understand you have to say that, but for Maine in particular, what gives you that confidence?
Well, I thought his last outing, even though he didn't do it over a period of, say, the 70, 80 pitches that he was given, I thought there was time where we saw glimpses of life. And I think if he gets in here, not tomorrow, but the next day, and shows that type of life, I think it gives us a good chance to have some success.
Okay, thanks, Jerry.
All right.
Let's take a look at the Mets box score with the win today, brought to you by Amtrak, and a pretty good day for David Wright with that two-run homer early in the game, hitting it to right field. We heard Jerry talk about that. As we said, 2 hits apiece for some of the newcomers, Jason Bay, Gary Matthews Jr., who we'll hear from in just a bit, and also Rod Barajas, who was brought in mainly for his defense, but did a fine job today behind the plate in support of Johan Santana. So let's hear from the ace and his win today on opening day.
So, Johan, I guess the arm's feeling pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it felt pretty good. You know, we work over spring training, waiting for this day, you know, for many months. And finally, I have a chance, you know, to go out there and do it. You know, I felt pretty good.
Johan, Jerry just mentioned a side session that you had with Dan late in spring training is something where you might have found something that you hadn't seen before out of yourself.
What we were doing is when we were in Tampa, that I threw my last bullpen prior to today's game, I felt much better, and I felt that my changeup was there and it was going down in the strike zone, and then that was something that we were focused on today, and then you see the results. You know, we worked pretty hard, and then I knew throughout whole spring training that my changeup and my slider were going to be one of the pitches, the latest pitches I will get in my repertoire, and then you know, I came back and I felt pretty good.
Johan, given everything that went on last year, you guys were pretty vocal about the fact that the page has been turned, but how important was it to kind of get this game out of the way and kind of in the bank for the season?
That was something that we were waiting for, you know, to get this game out of the way, you know, with the new guys that came in and put everything together. You know, we were very, very motivated about, you know, this season and today. You know, I think everybody feel comfortable. They were having a good time in the dugout, and it's good to see, you know, a good atmosphere, and then we were able to put pressure on Johnson right away, and then and take advantage from there, you know, and do the little things. You know, I think everything that we practice, always been training, you know, pays off today. You know, we did some good plays and play good defense and pitch good. You know, that's where we focus on, and then it was good to see that today.
Johan, do you think one game and one win today put to rest last year?
Well, you got to start at some point, you know, and today was the beginning of of a season for all of us. You know, we have to continue playing the game the right way and pitching and playing the defense and let the guys hit the ball out there. But definitely to get the first one out of the way was big for us and get motivated, get that confidence, and then go back out there on Wednesday. You know, I think it's a good start for us.
A key play in today's game was Cantu's double in the sixth inning, where it looked like the umpire blew the call, Jeff Nelson. Yet he was stranded. He didn't score a tying run. Do you think that was a key play? And is that kind of indicative of the difference between this year and last year, where maybe the wheels would have come off in a big inning for the Marlins?
I mean, we don't questions, you know, calls by the umpires. You know, we just continue playing right there. You know, I tried to get the next guy. That's all I was doing. That was all it was in my mind at that point. You know, I think on Cantu's at bat, you know, we're trying to come in with a fastball, and he was able to hit it for a double. You know, that changed the whole inning right there. You know, but pretty much, you know, it's part of the game. You know, we're trying to play and go one pitch at a time, and we felt that throwing a fastball in there would be a good idea, and he put a good swing.
Johan, ¿qué tan importante fue empezar con el pie derecho?
Bueno, sin duda alguna esa es una de las partes principales, porque después de haber tenido una temporada tan difícil el año pasado, comenzar de esta manera es bastante satisfactorio, y esperemos pues que de aquí en adelante las cosas sigan de esa manera.
Johan, early in the season, is it something that is a particular challenge early in the season, getting fatigued in the middle innings to late innings? Is that something that you have to build up strength with, or is it the opposite, that you have more energy because it's early in the season?
No, as the season goes, you get better and better. You know, we today was the beginning of the season. We have fresh arms, and I think the situation of the game allowed Jerry to bring the bullpen and get everybody a chance to pitch. You know, I think I felt good throughout the whole game, and that's a good sign. You know, I didn't feel anything on my arm. My legs were fine. So I just got to get ready for the next one and build everything up from now on.
Johan, when you come off the season that you did last year, how much can new players breathe life into you? And you had some big contributions from some of the new guys today. How much can that help in putting last year behind you?
It is great, you know, to see Bay, Matthew, and Barajas performing like they did today. You know, it feels good, you know, because we counted on everybody, you know, and not just one guy or one pitcher or one player out there. Is the whole team that we counting on, and you know, they did a good job bringing in these guys, and they pay off. They did the job right away, you know, and that's a good sign. And we're just gonna continue, you know, helping each other and supporting each other and trying to win as many games as we can, you know, because that's what we wanted to do, and we trust every single guy that's in this team right now.
Hey, Johan, I know you talked about during spring about feeling healthy and stuff, but is there any part of you that still needs to get out there at this first game and feel this and perform?
No, I feel fine. You know, I compete. They challenged me, and I was there. I threw my fastballs, I threw my changeups, I threw my sliders, and of course, as the season goes, you make some adjustments. You will feel better. You will be more consistent, you know, on throwing the ball and the strike zone. But overall, I felt good.
Ok, Johan, buenas tardes. Tu primera salida ya después de, en serio, ¿no? Ya lo del sprint training quedó. Quisiera ver la recta 91, 92, 90. ¿Tú crees que esa velocidad va a bajar o tú crees que puede llegar a 93, 94 millas a medida que vayas construyendo más la forma física que buscas para esta temporada 2010?
Bueno, poco a poco uno va mejorando.
More to come your way on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. Coming up, what was it like for K-Rod to get back out on the mound after dealing with some family issues over the weekend? Finding out his family's okay. Well, we'll hear from him coming up, plus highlights as well from the 7-1 win for the Mets on opening day. The ladies from McFadden's enjoying opening day out here at Citi Field. McFadden's now open. open at Citi Field. Mets win it 7-1 over the Florida Marlins. And let's hit the highlights from the victory today for New York. And plenty of fanfare always around opening day. It is a perfect day out here at Citi Field. And SNY's own Darryl Strawberry throwing out the first pitch. Standing ovation for Straw, as you would expect, and number 18, also as you would expect, delivering a strike. We go to the bottom of the first inning to start things off, and after Luis Castillo reached on a fielder's choice, David Wright at the plate. Last week against Josh Johnson, that's last Wednesday, spring training, everything's nice and easy. David Wright with a home run opposite field, and he was only 3 for 18 against Johnson in his career. But this would look a little bit familiar 5 days later. Johnson set, Wright going opposite field, Bobby.
A very similar pitch, but that's that aggressive swing. That's anticipating the pitch. That's not over-swinging, but that's an aggressive attack swing. I love seeing that.
A little trip in the hot tub time machine right there back to last Wednesday. And Santana, of course, going for the Mets. Cameron Maybin at the plate, looking like Cameron may not been, and he was all day, swinging at the changeup. Third inning, getting some defensive help here from Alex Cora.
Well, Alex Cora, what he lacks in range, and he does, because he is not Jose Reyes. He makes up in intelligence, playing deep in the hole. I think he actually started moving before that ball was hit.
Reigning Rookie of the Year, Chris Coughlin. That's a weak pop-out as Santana retired 9 of the first 10 that he faced today. Bottom of the fourth inning in a jam, 2 out, second and third, Ronnie Paulino induced to the fly ball. It was an adventure all day long for Gary Matthews Jr. in center field because of that win. Bottom fourth, after a couple of singles sandwiched around a walk, this is Alex Cora with the bases loaded, lines a bullet, but Hanley Ramirez robs him.
Yeah, that's one of those things. He hit it well. Nice piece of hitting. In the scorebook, it goes as less than 2 outs, bases juiced. They don't get nothing in, but a nice piece of hitting, just a little unlucky.
Josh Johnson happy that it's just 2-0 at that point. Still 2-0 Mets. Coughlin singled and stole second in the 6th inning. Jorge Cantu, a Met killer. 16 RBIs against him last year, tore it down the line.
Beautiful piece of hitting. That was an perfectly executed pitch, but he telescoped. He pulled his hands inside, kept that ball fair. That's what the good ones do.
And maybe got a little break here because it looked like Cantu on the double might have been out. So Santana would walk Dan Ugla. Paulino again against Santana. This one, I don't think Ronnie has the distance as he camps under it, does Gary Matthews Jr. to put it away. Santana done. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 103 pitches. Bottom 6, 2-1 lead for the Mets. Jason Bay. Bobby, where's he going shopping?
He's going at the Gap, Mr. Carlin.
And Bob, I hear that the spring line is out at the Gap. That is a triple for Jason Bay to lead things off, and he would score on a Jeff Francoeur sac fly. Gary Matthews walked, moved to second on a failed pickoff attempt. Rod Barajas, welcome to New York. Dead center field, and Maybin looking lost.
Put a great swing on it. Now, this man had 70 RBIs, we said last year. You know, that's the type of hitting we need. He doesn't have to hit 300, but if he drives people in like that, that's what you need all year.
This is Angel Pagan pinch hitting and delivering, smoking it to right center field. Barajas scores. It's 5-1 Mets. Bottom 7 now 6-1. Marlins struggling a little bit defensively. Jeff Francoeur's pop-up. I got it, you got it. Cue the circus music as it falls in between the 3 of them. A very generous double for Mr. Francoeur, but he'll take it. Freddie Gonzalez not liking what he sees, and the Mets are 32-17 on opening day. That is the best record in Major League Baseball. They have also won 18 of their last 20 at home on opening day. More to do on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. We are going to hear from Alex Cora, and we're going to hear from K-Rod on what it was like to be back out on the mound after a very tough weekend with his family. 7-1, Mets win it. Stick around.
Season for Santana. And he drives this one to right field. Over toward the corner. That ball is out of here. And he hits one toward the hole. Nice diving stop by Cora. Tries to right himself and throws right on target. He struck him out. 5 of the afternoon. And the ball game is over. Like
Let's hit the Lincoln Mercury upcoming schedule for the Mets. Couple more with the Marlins on Wednesday after a day off tomorrow before the Washington Nationals come to town over the weekend. Mets will hit the road for the first time this year in Colorado a week from tomorrow. Let's hit the Emblem Health play that worked. It is brought to you by Emblem Health. It's the plan that works, and not hard to figure this one out. It came early. David Wright, just 10 home runs last season, starts out on a good note today.
A very good note. Driving the ball the other way, got a hit later in the game, pulling it, and had a very valuable walk. Just did it all today.
Well, coming up for the Mets on Wednesday as they look to open the season 2-0, John Maine will be on the mound, Bobby. And, boy, this is an important start for John Maine to get off to a good start for the Mets.
Well, I think spring is over. His numbers are gone. He starts with zeros. He's going to take the knowledge. He's going to take the work he put in. He's going to use it to get people out. And I think John is poised to go out there and have a solid game tomorrow or the following day.
He will face Ricky Nolasco, and then Jonathan Neese will face the newly acquired left-hander Nate Robertson. Just came over from the Detroit Tigers last week. Time to hear from the Mets closer after a very trying weekend. K-Rod was out there for the Mets today. Let's hear from Frankie.
Did you talk to him about playing today, and did he express to you?
No, I haven't talked to him. He's been medicated for pain, so I haven't get the opportunity yet. So, I can, all the members of my family, they've been keeping, in touch and send me text messages and see how, how he respond, how the treatment. So
It must be difficult.
It is, but what can I do? You gotta, focus in your job and not try to pull the extra pressure, the pressure outside the field, in the field. So.
Well, Wednesday night, game 2 of the season, and of course, you will catch all the action right here on SNY, beginning with Subway pregame live at 6:30, then the Mets and Marlins at 7, and as always, Lincoln Mercury postgame live immediately following the last pitch of the game. Coming up on Daily News Live, you will hear from Alex Cora. You will also hear from the newest Met, Jason Bay, as well, after a big opener for him and company. The Mets win it 7-1 this afternoon on opening day over the Marlins. Stay tuned. D&L coming up next. For Bobby O, I'm Chris Carlin. Have a great rest of your day.